Hugo, how are we doing this week, my friend?
Jordo, I'm doing very well, thank you, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing really well. We have a slight change of I guess content. We've jumped straight into the sports, but I kind of feel like I shouldn't do this, but I feel like I kind of have to do this now because we've had sort of a 30-second countdown intro. So I feel like we need to properly introduce since we're going straight into sports.
Yeah, we're doing all right so far.
Yeah, well, bear with. I'm gonna set us up properly.
Okay.
I mean, I spent like a half hour on that, believe it or not. So I'm going to use it every chance I get.
Mate, is that all?
That's it.
That is
30 minutes. I need to expand them, but yeah. So we're going to be talking fights this week. We're going to be talking the McGregor Poirier. Am I saying that right?
Poirier. Yeah, I think
Poirier.
so. I don't know if
So for
yeah.
anybody's watching, just to get a bit of context, I'm a massive sport fan, and I have watched boxing, but I haven't really gotten into MMA. Hugh, it's fair to say you are a massive MMA fan. That would be your top sport.
It's my favorite sport. Yeah. So I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I've been following it for a long, long time, since the early noughties when it came out. The Ultimate Fighter original series was when I really took off. So that will put it in perspective for fans out there.
There's a link actually I want to do in the future because there was one of those guys from the original series who murdered somebody. And I watched a whole documentary on that. We can double back to that, but just something that popped into my head.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Well, let's talk about that for another show. But we wanted to have to review this Conor McGregor Poirier fight. And Hugh, what I thought I would do is sort of the layperson who is coming this externally. I thought I'd give my initial thoughts and then let you tell me how stupid I am, and then hear what your thoughts are and correct me for all the stupid shit that I said.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Good. All right, good. We're on it. So I watched the fight. Where I found myself watching it, I thought from the first round, and if you were to ask me between the two rounds, I felt Conor McGregor won the first round. I felt fairly comfortably. I didn't think Poirier was out of the fight, but I felt like McGregor was landing more shots. He looked like he had more command. In the second round, I was really impressed with McGregor's ability. There was a point where Poirier had him down, had him on the ground, and had control of him. And I thought McGregor. So again, this is a layperson's view. I thought McGregor had shown a lot of experience in how he was able to keep his shit together, stay in control, not use too much energy. Because I would imagine just when we were grappling that one time, I was amazed at how much energy it takes just to get through that period. And for him to get up and gain control back and get back into the fight was incredible. And he looked like he was very experienced. And I think given how much time out he had, I didn't think he was going to make initially as good an accounting of himself. Now, my initial view before I looked into it was he really just got a bit sloppy at the end. He was pushing a bit hard. And I think there was reasons for that I found out as I looked into the fight more and listened to more of the post-fight interviews. But he got into a bit of trouble by putting himself a bit too far forward in the fight. He was really trying to connect with punches and counter punches, just trying to get some combinations in there, which turned out to be, I think, down to a leg injury. He had a bit of a dead leg from all of the calf kicks that were coming in. And because of that, it looked like McGregor was trying to press, trying to get a knockout punch in because he wasn't going to be able to sustain, I think, that fight, given that his leg wasn't working. And that's when Poirier took advantage, caught him with a really good counterpunch and just had control. I think he stunned him. And the knockout punch was actually a little bit of a right jab as Conor was trying to regain himself. And I very much thought Conor looked better than I thought he was going to look, given how long he was out. Poirier, I come away from that fight I don't expect him, if he was going to fight Khabib, for example, and I don't know if that's going to be the case. I don't know outside of that fight if he's going to make as good of accounting of himself with, let's say, a higher tier fighter than McGregor, who's been out of the game for a while, who's more, I don't know, who's been fighting more regularly. So I thought Poirier, from my perspective, did well, but I'm just trying to think of what Khabib would look like. Or when I saw McGregor in his prime, would Poirier, make as good accounting of himself in that fight? I mean, what do you think?
So let's split that assessment up into two parts.
Okay.
Part one would be your fight assessment. Part two would be what's next for Poirier. So part one, I think it was a very good summary of what I saw. And I think if you go out and into the ether of the internet, you'll probably find descriptions and summaries that are nigh on exactly the same as what you said there. The first round was pretty close. I think that Poirier held himself up very well. I thought that McGregor edged it, but there wasn't a lot in it. That the thing where it gets a bit complicated and subjective is takedowns. Now, Dustin got a takedown, and that is a plus. It's not as big as a knockdown, but it's still very good. So that went in his favor. However, there's a takedown, and then it's what you do in the takedown. And Conor, which is classed as takedown defense, is deceptively good at that. He doesn't get enough credit for that. And I agree with you. I thought he did very well. He conserved his energy, got back up to his feet without too much damage being done. And the chess match played out. The first round was very tight. And if the judge had said that it was definitely Poirier, I don't think I'd have been overly upset. I thought Conor edged it and was pressing as well. That's another thing they look at is octagon control, which is like aggression. So who's forcing the pace, who's pushing the action, which was clearly Conor. So first round pretty tight. Second round, you're spot on. I mean, Dustin is technically a very good boxer, and I think behind his punches as well, there's a lot of power. I was quite. I don't want to, it's easy to say right now, isn't it? But I could have seen both of them getting knocked out. I'm not at all surprised Conor was knocked out because Poirier's knocked out some really good stand-up fighters. He's a strong guy.
I've not seen him fight before.
He knocked out. He gave Max Holloway, who again Max had an outstanding fight last week, and Max was claimed Max is in the weight below, and Max came up a weight to try and take on Khabib as well, and missed weight one other time. But anyway, Max claims that he's the best boxer in MMA, and Dustin Poirier basically knocked him down a number of times. And Dustin said, look, Max was saying that last week, I think I've got a shout to being the best boxer in MMA, especially after now knocking out Conor McGregor, who would class himself in that realm as well. So, yeah, your summary was spot on, mate. The difference was the calf kicks. They played their toll. They are devastating. Calf kicks, I mean, everyone just needs to learn how to do them because I've had thigh kicks done on me, and that is bad enough. Calf kick is a different level. You lose the use of your leg. You've seen some examples where people go to tread and their foot just is like your mic. It flops and they've actually tried. Yeah. Their foot has gone underneath themselves because they've lost all use of their leg just from calf kicks. That's how bad it is.
I did research on this because this came up. I'm going to share here in just a second. Because one of the things that Conor had said in one of the post-fight interviews, I'm just going to read one of the things that caught my eye. So where is it? Where he was talking about those calf kicks. And where are we? Dana White, no. Here we go. Yeah, so McGregor said, so in the post-fight interview, and this is from Twitter account from Mark Raimondi, where he spoke with McGregor, and he said, I'm going to adopt a different approach for the trilogy with Dustin. Those leg kicks are not to be messed with. The calf kick and low calf kick, I hadn't experienced that, which I thought was interesting because McGregor's a really experienced fight, and it's not as if I haven't seen calf kicks before. As a non, I guess, seasoned fight fan. He said McGregor said he had Thiago Alves and Dustin Poirier's corner saying that was a good one about one of the second round half kicks. And McGregor said, in my head, I was like, you bastard, that was a good one. McGregor, my leg is completely dead, even though I felt like I was checking them. I was badly compromised because that was what I saw. And just to share my screen here, I'm just going to share which screen am I sharing? I need to share it first. And this was him after the fight, walking real bad. So that led me to, just one more point. I found a doctor who did a post-fight assessment of the calf kicks. And he was saying that what was happening was there's a nerve that goes from the thigh down past the outside of the knee called the sural nerve.
Yeah.
And what happens is, as you're kicking it, it's the nerve that connects sort of the sciatic nerve. So if you've ever had sciatic or ever had shoulder pain that goes down your back, it's sort of that line, that nerve that goes down there, and it's right on the outside, right below the knee. And that was the area that he was just hammering and hammering. And as you and you couldn't tell, Conor did a really good job to the layperson covering up to what degree the injury was happening. But if you listen to the announcers after during the fight, they could tell straight away that he was compromised. And that's when it connected to me that McGregor was really going at it. He was really going for a knockdown, because I think at that point he felt like, if I don't get a knockdown, I can't maintain. If he takes me down, I'm out of it. I can't. He had a dead leg at that stage. But I hadn't heard about calf kicks to that degree, or how devastating they could be.
Sure. Joe Rogan goes on about this, and it's a technique brought in from Muay Thai and Thai boxing. There was one of the trainers, Rufus, what's his name? Can't remember his name now. He coaches Tyrone Woodley. The name has escaped me. His brother was a kickboxing world champion, USA kickboxing world champion. And back in the day, in the 90s, this is, and Rogan, you could search for this, the day that changed MMA. There was a world-class kickboxer, which is just, kicks to the head and then boxing, versus a Muay Thai practitioner. And the Muay Thai practitioner kicked the shit out of the guy's legs. The first round, actually, I think this guy, Duke Rufus, was the guy that I was thinking of. I can't remember what his brother's name, something Rufus. He was like doing spinning kicks and all this flashy kicks and was looking really good. And then the Thai guy started kicking his legs. And Sean, it's devastating. You got to watch the fight. He can't even stand up, and he is going in full blast soccer kicking, like wiping his legs out and falling down. And the American's corner was like, this is disgraceful, that like that technique shouldn't be allowed, and etc. But it is allowed. And just go to show the power of them. It doesn't matter how good you are, like one or two of those will change everything. And what was exciting, Khabib took on Justin Gaethje in his retirement fight. And Justin Gaethje is renowned for having some of the hardest leg kicks in the game. And they were saying, what are you going to do about combating Khabib? Well, Justin Gaethje was like, I can wrestle. I wrestle. If you look at his wrestling credentials, he's a D1 wrestler. He was a defensive type wrestler. So he said he's going to have to go some to get me down, for one. Two, he said, all I need is 4 calf kicks. It was like 4 or 5. He said, if I land 4 or 5 calf kicks, he's done. And he said, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to stop him from taking me down. I'm going to smash his legs. He was like, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Didn't turn out. I think he got 1 kick on, and it hurt Khabib, but Khabib wouldn't allow anything. He just swarmed him. So those calf kicks, mate, are no fucking joke. You just need to hear those tough people talk about it, and you see someone like Conor coming out of it. The thing you have to bear in mind, though, is that there is a cost to it. So Conor McGregor fought Nate Diaz twice and lost the first one, which was the first time he was defeated in the UFC. They had a rematch, and Conor went out with the leg kick strategy. And Conor, in his interview, if you look at that he would limped out of the stadium, and he said, fuck doing, I think his language was, fuck doing leg kicks again. I can't, my legs can't handle that. So he had some issues, I think, just like on a minor scale with his feet after that, because of the kick inside of it. So it's not just the other person gets them out. There's not a lot of protection on the foot, and if you catch a shin bone on the top of the foot as well, which people are checking and moving, you catch the knee at an angle, like there's a cost to it. So that's the dice that you're playing. But if you catch a leg kick, a calf kick, then you're in a lot of trouble.
So as watching this and listening to what Conor said, somebody who's a very experienced fighter, somebody who's used the leg kicks as a strategy, why was it something he hadn't seen before? And why, how would he defend against that the next time? Was he getting too close? Was he not managing his range well?
They're both renowned, but you'd have to ask him that. My 2 pennies worth is they're both renowned good boxers. And actually, to be fair, they're both all round really strong stand-up guys. They both do low kicks, high kicks, and they're good boxers. So you just thought you didn't think that they would concentrate heavily in one area. Do you know what? It's very much the same as people in boxing when you get shot to the body. DC versus Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. They fought twice, and in the or was it? No, 3 times now. Yeah, 3 times. And in the second fight, Stipe Miocic landed a body punch to DC. It was something like 16 times in the same area. It was something quite big like that, and it floored. After that accumulates, and then after a while, it just broke DC, and he fell down, and then he got beaten up over it. You're thinking, oh, why aren't you aware of the body point? Just sometimes a technique is working for them in the ring, and then they keep doing it, and then there's a bit of damage, a bit more damage, a bit more damage, and it's too late. You can't do anything about it. So, yeah, you'd have to ask him for the answer of that. It's always there as a technique to be concerned about, but there are certain people like Justin Gaethje who will go out, and that is one of his. You have got to watch that. If you don't watch that, like one or two of those, and you are done for. The fight is totally changed. So outside of those couple of people that renowned for it, people just don't expect someone going out that hard in that specific technique. But just goes to show that if you don't, then it can really pay the price.
Yeah, because if we look at the stand-up portion of it, and I may sound like a complete idiot, but I was really impressed.
You don't.
Well, I was really impressed with Conor McGregor as a stand-up fighter. Watching it, maybe I watched it before. Somebody was having beers with his mates, and this is the first time I've watched a fight to really pay attention. And I was really impressed with Conor McGregor as sort of a stand-up boxer. His kicks,
he's amazing.
His kicks were devastating. You could tell. I felt like. The reason maybe I don't give Poirier, let me clarify myself here. I think he did an incredible job, mad respect, but he didn't impress me in his win to a degree. Partially because I don't understand how devastating and maybe how accurate those leg kicks were. But when he was taking him on sort of toe to toe as a stand-up boxer, I think he tried to make that tackle because I don't feel like he felt like he could hang with Conor in sort of that boxing setup, or at least that was what I took away from it, because Conor was definitely getting the better of him when it came to his combinations. He was landing a lot more punches. I think Poirier landed maybe one punch that caught Conor a bit, but if you look at Poirier's face, he was getting peppered, and that leg kick for me changed the whole focus of the match.
That's all it needs. Yeah, well, sometimes that's it, mate. One punch, one kick, one body shot, and it's changes the whole complexion of the fight. I don't think you sound like a layman. Look, people can say what they want about Conor McGregor. He is still renowned as one of the best stand-up guys in the UFC, full stop, across all weight divisions. So you might not like him, but you've got to give him his props. He can punch and kick with the best of them. He's extremely accurate. He's flexible. He's got a lot of weapons. He can kind of go with both hands, both feet, up and down. Head kicks, even Cowboy, the shoulder, he threw out some of those shoulders again, didn't he, with Poirier? And he just gets so much leverage off just doing that. So yeah,
those were wearing down Poirier. Those, because when he was tied up, when he got up, what really impressed me. Well, first I was impressed by the combinations, and I walked away being impressed by what Conor was able to do, having been out of that sort of. It's got to be difficult to go into MMA after training as a boxer and being out of the game for a while, especially with the amount of money he has, and the options he has afforded to him. And I thought, from my perspective, to get out of that position where he was compromised, to get up and to gain control back. And when he was throwing those shoulder punches, that really stood out to me, because you could just see Poirier. There's a point where he looked a bit dazed after one of those shoulder punches connected right under his chin. And the amount of power he got into that was impressive.
Yeah, he's technically, I think he's technically exceptional, Conor McGregor, and underrated on the ground as well. And to Dustin's credit, I think Dustin, this is just my 2 pennies worth. I'm not a stand-up expert either. I think Dustin probably carries, if not equal power, maybe slightly more. I think like in the gym, this is again, I've got nothing to base this on. I wouldn't be surprised if Dustin Poirier is slightly stronger than McGregor. McGregor's faster though. So McGregor he says something about precision, that it's not about being, if you hit someone fast enough in the right spot with like even a finger, like you can knock someone down. There's that precision. He catches people on the chin and they go to sleep. I think he may have precision over Dustin, but Dustin has great technique and he has some power behind it. And that combination was enough to get through to McGregor. And another thing you got to bear in mind, Connor always comes out to us. He looks amazing in the first couple rounds, and unfortunately, what we've seen is that he doesn't seem as strong in the latter rounds, and he's lost fights as it comes on. He looks wear and he's breathing heavier. Dustin Poirier has been in 5-round fights, and he's a gamer. He, like, when the blood comes out, and he kind of he's in it. He's in there to the end. And actually, I think I would have predicted Connor looking better in rounds 1 and 2, and rounds 4 and 5. I would have thought Poirier would have looked better, and it's really going to be a close one. They could knock each other out. That was really my thought process. Yeah. So Dustin was probably still getting warmed up. There are just some people like that.
And I was impressed with Poirier was I felt like he was a bit more methodical about his approach, and I thought he read and reacted to how the match was progressing quite well. So when I saw McGregor landing those punches, he tied up McGregor, got McGregor on the ground, and how he was able to move and maneuver around. There was areas where McGregor was gaining ground, and you could see tactically, I think he was managing the fight quite well, given he was a bit on the back foot at points.
Now I think that I'm not so sure that he tied him. Maybe he did, or maybe he didn't. I think he had in the back of the mind, I'm going to get into a grappling fight with Conor and try and wear him out. That because, like you said, mate, grappling, even when they're clinching against the cage and they've got their shoulder barge kind of situated, when they're in that's tiring for both parties. So if you're saying, right, I back myself, I've got a better engine in him, what I'm going to do is wear him down and get him really flustered. And I think that was part of his game plan, was to try and wear him down and then look to kind of take over in rounds 3 onwards, like just weather the storm. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe he caught me with a few of those shots. He's like, right, I'm going to get this down early. Or maybe it was just part of the plan in round 1. I'm going to try and get this into a grappling exchange, because Poirier, I believe, is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Is he really?
Well, so he's no mug. He can handle himself on the ground for sure.
I thought he was, just the way that I thought he was a similar style fighter to Conor from how the first round presented itself, because he wasn't, up until the point Conor started to land blows, he hadn't, and maybe that was part of his strategy, was to bide his time, let Conor wear himself down a bit, and then go in, get him on the floor. But he was going toe to toe with sort of a kickboxing match. It was the first 2-3 minutes in.
And that will be his. So this is the funny thing about MMA. You've got a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. That's just like you need that as a base to kind of be world class. Like, that isn't. There's a difference between like him and Charles Oliveira, who's he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt as well, but he's been a black belt for however many years. And there are black belts, and then there are black belts. So that's where it's like a Navy SEAL. It's like someone that's just passed buds, and you're like, oh, you're a Navy SEAL, versus a 15-year Navy SEAL. Those are two different individuals. There are levels to this game. Like the SEAL suggests, when you get through buds training, you're nothing. You're starting from zero, and then you'll kind of learn you'll then start to really learn. Well, it's the same for jiu-jitsu. So and Conor, I believe Conor's brown. He may even be black belt jiu-jitsu. I'd have to check that, but he's a high level Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. But you just need a black belt in there of experience to show him up.
So I think moving on from that, the other thing I think that occurred to me was when the fight was over, I've had a slight change in thought from my less educated stance to my current position on where Conor goes from here, because we discussed that in conjunction with the Jake Paul, whatever it was, and the Manny Pacquiao fight that had been negotiated, or looked like it was in some sort of negotiation. And when I listened to Conor after the fight, obviously disappointed. Conor, as he usually is, very respectful, and he's always honest, similar to how I think Tyson Fury is when he loses, or if he loses. Tyson Fury would say, look, I'm going to say, great job. A lot of respect if you can knock me out. I saw a fighter who was hungry at the end of that fight, who didn't want to go out like that. Somebody who didn't actually do, in my view, poorly. He's more in the tank than I thought in my view, my ignorant view. I think he's got more in the tank. And I think he's going to want to make a comeback in another fight. I don't see him going into some sort of, money-making boxing match. I think the second he goes down that route, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, for him to come back into MMA.
So if we just scoot back on Conor, Conor fought Eddie Alvarez and was the first 2-time champion. So he was at 145 pounds and won the title and defended it. And then he went up to 140, 155, 10 pounds heavier, fought Eddie Alvarez and annihilated Eddie. He embarrassed this world champion guy. He moved up a weight class and embarrassed the champion. It was unbelievable. This was the photo you'll see him. He had his arms behind his back, putting his chin out. Like kind of,
I remember this, yeah.
And he was like, then knocked it. You know, he was just moving out the way, and he looked unbelievable. It was after that fight. The dates I'm going to guess now, but it's probably about a year out that he then went into the boxing Mayweather, and then he was out of the octagon for about 2 years before coming back to fight Khabib. Like his comeback fight was Khabib, which is ridiculous, to be honest. Like he's maybe the greatest fighter of all time, and Khabib was someone that's fighting regularly at that point. Now, my argument would be I would love to have seen Khabib versus Conor off the back of Alvarez, because he had a couple of years outside the octagon. Conor, now in hindsight, you look at everyone else that Khabib's fought, although he lost by submission, Conor did a good job. And I think what people were hoping for on the Conor train was Conor would look good against Poirier and set up a potential rematch against Khabib, although Khabib may not have taken it. So that we've got to give some context to that. He did come back and fight Cowboy, but he beat Cowboy very quickly, which in some sense wasn't a good thing because he didn't get time in the octagon. So he trained for it, fought Cowboy, knocked him out quickly. That was January last year. So he hasn't been able to fight since. So it's like you said, his time in the octagon over the last 3-4 years is really minimal compared to a lot of the high class alternatives out there. Because this, by the way, it's worth pointing out, this is the hardest weight division. I think there's a couple up there. 135 is probably the next toughest one, but yeah, I would say this is probably the hardest, the most stacked division, as they call it. There are just potential world champions everywhere. So your point, Sean, going back to it, was Conor, what does that lead for him now, right? So you're thinking that where does he go? He looks like he's got a lot of steam in him. Well, absolutely. We also, people overwrite the fact that Conor he's a champion. He is a savage. He's a competitive, compulsive, animal. And when he lost to Khabib, Dana White said, I've never heard someone say, he was obsessed about Khabib. He's like, I need to get the rematch. I need to get back in there and fight him again. And he wouldn't shut up about it. Is exactly the same with his loss to Nate Diaz as well. He would not stop going on about he wanted to fight him. Actually, I did make him. I've obviously forgot Nate Diaz out of the Eddie Alvarez thing, so that's another factor. But anyway, so I think the problem. I think he'll be back in the ring because he wouldn't want to go out like that. But unfortunately, now his star power is taking a hit. So he's lost a bit of gloss now, unfortunately.
Well, I think if he fights Pereira again, which Pereira mentioned in his post-match interview, I guess, his post-fight interview in the ring, he did allude to maybe we need a third one. And I think they have a lot of the one thing that did stand out in this fight. And I don't know if this is a different Conor or he had a lot of respect for Pereira. They both mentioned a third fight. So if that happens, that might give him a leg back in to get some other fights. But you were saying, does it sound like Khabib may not ever fight Conor then? If this was, if he's looking to do maybe one more fight and retire.
I think they may even make a documentary over that fight because, mate, it got really dicey ground with those two. They have some history. So unfortunately, Conor's training partner was from Russia, and he was saying that Khabib was scared or something to fight Conor McGregor. And then Khabib saw Conor's buddy in a lobby, and Khabib had, I don't know, like 12 other people around him. He goes and approaches Conor's training buddy, who's on his own, and saying, what are you kind of saying about me? You shouldn't be saying those things. And he slapped him across the face. And it was like a disrespect. And he was, and this guy just didn't react. And Khabib had loads of other people around him. That incensed Conor and said, like, this guy's a coward, kind of, ganging up on a guy on his own. So then you had the incident where Conor flew a jet out with people. There was claims that he was like potentially on drugs or something as well. He stormed one of the backstage like transport areas where the fighters were being transported from one unit to another in New York City, and that's where he threw the trolley through the window for Khabib.
I think I saw this.
Going, come out, come out. He wants to fight him, and he had like a mob with him. He's like, you know, you're going to attack my friend, I'm going to attack you. This is personal. And then Khabib was like, what is going on? And people got injured in that. Someone got like glass in their face and their eye. They couldn't fight that weekend. Conor went avoided jail. Like, it was really serious stuff. And then it got real personal. Conor, Khabib is a devout Muslim and one of the most disciplined human beings alive, and all he does is fight and train. And Conor went quite personal, and he attacked his wife, and there was some very unsavory stuff. And those guys have got unfinished. Like, Khabib did what he needed to do, and then he was like, "Look, you're nothing. I've already beaten him." And he maybe wouldn't have fought Conor again because he wouldn't want to give this guy, this loudmouth, another chance in, because Khabib's all about respect and honor, and Conor is not. Conor's about entertainment, and that's what made it so compelling. But Khabib holds the chips, and he doesn't have to fight him. He's already beaten him up quite convincingly. So I'm not sure that would have happened. Like, Khabib would have had more to lose than to gain by fighting him again.
Yeah. Well, would it not, though, for Khabib be sort of a good exclamation mark on his career, given how well, from what you were saying, Conor accounted himself in that fight against Khabib? Would Conor have been the closest to beating Khabib in his prime?
I would love to have seen Tony prior to his losses, because now it's not going to look the same, because Tony looked invincible. Tony is someone, he's from Mexico. The stories of Tony Ferguson are amazing. His nickname's El Cucuy. He's got Mexican heritage, mate. His cardio, like, people will suggest that he's training in the mountains, like going for runs. He never stops moving. If you look at his Instagram, he is a cardio machine, and technically he's weird. You look at him fight, he's very awkward. He's got these long limbs, and he'll attack you from elbows and cuts people up. And he never stops. He's in your face from start to finish, and he's not scared of anyone. And also, if you get him to the ground, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he submitted some people very well. So people thought, well, if Khabib drags him down, which is possible, Tony could submit him. But Tony isn't going to slow down. He's just got this endless energy. But I can't remember where my trail of thought was going now on that. But what were we saying?
Well, we were talking about how this all started when I was talking about Conor McGregor. Has he given Khabib? Is he the one who's pushed Khabib the most?
Yes, and I said Tony would have, in his, prior to those fights, that was the fight that everyone wanted to see because of that. Who else would be? Well, now Charles Oliveira. So I think he's now ranking in. Is it? Let me just check the charts right here. Charles Oliveira is in at number 4, and he blitzed Tony Ferguson and even dominated him on the ground. So someone needs to be world-class at jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, to fight Khabib, or they need to be at a different level of stand-up. So Conor could match him on the feet, but if Khabib gets a hold of you, then it has to be about being a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert. And it was either going to be Tony Ferguson or Charles Oliveira. And based on the fact that those two fought and Charles Oliveira dominated Tony Ferguson and almost submitted him twice, you've got to say that Charles Oliveira would be really, I would suggest Khabib's, that would be the most intriguing matchup, but I don't think that will happen.
Well, I think what I wanted to do here is transition back to Chandler v. Hooker then. So this is the next thing, because I found that to be an interesting fight as well. More so that if I looked at it as an outsider, I thought the fight would not have, I guess, ended the way it had. And having seen both of these fighters for the first time, it didn't even look like, and I was surprised when I looked at the rankings. So you sent me rankings, and following that fight, I was surprised to see where Dan Hooker sat in the rankings, because I did not see a fighter in that fight that looked like a confident top 6 fighter. And he's 20-9, 10-5 UFC. Chandler absolutely owns him. It wasn't even remotely close. And I found him an intimidating figure in that fight. He's not a big guy. He looks like he's quite short and stocky, strong and fast, Chandler. And if I was in the ring with him, I would find him a harder prospect to fight because his target area is so small. And he was just so aggressive and so forward. It didn't even seem like a close fight. I mean, as somebody who's maybe a bit more experienced with this, what did you think about that fight?
Yeah, I mean, pressure it counts for something, and it can force mistakes as well. The obvious difference between those two were the lengths of their reach. So Hooker was a really tall guy; he's got long limbs, so he wants to keep it at a distance, whilst Chandler wants to do exactly what he was enforcing there, was to close a different distance to try and take out that reach advantage. Hooker's renowned for having an amazing knee uppercut as well. So when people try and tackle him, he's kneed people in the face and done a huge amount of damage. So you were thinking whether or not that would come into play when Chandler tries to take him down, because Chandler's first and foremost like a world-class wrestler. And I think, we didn't see that. He just put an unbelievable amount of pressure on him and caught him. Dan Hooker was feeling like, I think Dan Hooker was obviously on the back foot because of the pressure from Chandler, but fights can turn so quickly. You also, there are people that are counter fighters that actually love that. Like Anderson Silva is one of the best candidates for that. If the other person isn't putting pressure on, someone like Anderson Silva would sit back and be deemed as quite boring. What he wants is someone to come at him and then he counters. So when you do a left, I do a right, and etc. Dan Hooker, I wouldn't say is renowned for being a counter fighter. But he's got huge amount of tools in his arsenal. But I mean, it's the fight game. It's the fight game. Trying to put a huge amount of pressure on and got him out early. Caught him and got him out early. It's just the way it happens sometimes.
The reason I thought he looked weak was because I saw that fight second after I watched Pereira and McGregor. And when I compare Pereira on the back foot versus Hooker on the back foot, I remember thinking, watching Hooker, he seemed weak in that fight, and that was the impression I got watching him. It was very timid. He looked nervous. He was just running away from the get-go, and I think part of that was down to how aggressive Chandler was, clearly trying to get within that reach, trying to get inside so that he could start to. Chandler's looked like his tactic was just to go like a bull and just try to catch him and get him on the ground.
So you've got to flip that around as well. And let me give like an exaggerate. If you fight against Anderson Silva like a counter fighter, if you watched him in some fights, you might think, why is he backing up? Because that's his style. He wants you to throw first because then he's going to whatever you do, he's amazing at reacting to that. So that was what he was world class at. I'm not suggesting that's the case for Hooker, but just because someone's backpedaling, that doesn't mean it's a bad idea.
It's the way he was backpedaling. So his jabs. So if I compare it to, I've watched a lot more boxing, were very weak and very just sort of, they were not convincing. They were kind of like running away and punching. They were very inefficient. And to me, it didn't look like he knew what to do. It didn't look like he was, he was moving and jumping aside. It just looked like he was. So if I watched, and I mentioned this to you before, I watched Thor versus Stephen Ward, and I'm going to send you a link to watch that. Stephen Ward was a confident boxer. Thor was going at him, and he very similar to that. He was playing sort of a counter game because Thor is just outmatches him in size and strength. They're not even close. Even the body shots are going to be difficult to make an impact. And the way he was countering for the charge, there was like some method, you could tell he was dancing and jumping and counterpunching. And this counterpunching seemed just sort of erratic and scatty and almost like he was trying to sort of gather himself to get in a position to do, to counter properly.
Yeah, I think I think you're part right, and I part think you're being quite harsh as well.
I might be, yeah.
There's also just a feeling out process, Sean. There's also a thing of about timing, reach, and distance control. So when you're just when he's touching like that, it's just maybe just trying to keep him at bay. I'm not trying to knock him out. I'm not trying to hurt him. I'm just trying to keep him at bay and try and keep distance between. But I do also agree with you. Dan Hooker looked a little bit out of sorts, and you just need to go and watch his last 3 fights, and you think, where was that Dan Hooker? Because he is put on. He's put on 3, more than 3. He's put on almost an amazing fight every time he's showed up in the octagon. So he didn't quite look himself, but you've got to bear in mind the opponent. So where's Chandler's strength? It's taking you down. What you don't want to do is get into Chandler's world of wrestling, because if Chandler gets a hold of him, Hooker's in shit. So Hooker needs to keep distance. But then if Chandler is pushing, what does Hooker need to do? He needs to step back to create that distance. So what was Hooker to do? To try and go back up to him, to kind of stand up to him as a man. But now I'm in Chandler's world. Chandler can get a hold of me and I'm in a bit of trouble. Whilst I'm better at a distance, and if Chandler's closing, now I need to step back some more. So I think I agree and disagree. I think I think when there are so many things at play that you've got to consider. I felt for Hooker. Chandler played the game plan right. And I would have liked to have seen Hooker staying a little bit longer just to see what he could do. Find some shots, because if Chandler got caught a couple of times, like rushing in, and then Hooker got a jab or a knee or an elbow, Chandler would then slow down a little bit. Hooker didn't gain Chandler's respect. Chandler just got in his face and just overwhelmed him. But if Hooker had caught a couple of shots, that may have changed things a little bit.
He would have backed up a bit. Yeah, he wouldn't have been.
Maybe.
It was probably the most, and I've probably watched maybe about 8 or 9 MMA fights in my time, and it was the most aggressive I've seen anybody take somebody on that quickly. And the size was notable too, the size difference, and how stocky and short Chandler, as a target looks. Because I remember my thought watching that sort of first bit was, just the thing that I kept thinking was, as he was jabbing and trying to keep Chandler back, his target area was so small, because he had his hands covering his face, his stomach and chest area were, he was moving so quick, and he had such a small target to aim for. I guess from my perspective, I was just sympathizing with Dan Hooker, saying, how the hell is he going to get any sort of movement in on that? It just seemed like a really difficult target to get to.
So you were saying about what was next with Dustin Poirier, and this is where I disagree with you. Your second half of the initial point, because I agreed with your assessment of the fight. I think Poirier will do very well. That him versus Chandler, which is what they're kind of suggesting might be the next fight, would be for a title fight. And Dana White actually confirmed that in a post-fight press conference.
I'm very interested to see that.
So now, that's a different proposition, because not only is Poirier technically very good, got heavy hands. If Chandler tries to take him down, Poirier can handle himself on his back, and Chandler better be careful, because he can get choked out by him. So that's a very interesting matchup. Let's be frank, that's a really interesting matchup. And then we've got the potential of Justin Gaethje and Oliveira to play out, and depending on how that goes, if Oliveira beats Gaethje, Oliveira is then catapulted into the realm of either Khabib, Chandler, and Poirier. So that'll be interesting. And Conor will you have to look at loser versus loser. So you've got Dan Hooker versus Conor McGregor, or you've got the loser of Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira versus Conor McGregor, or you've got Tony Ferguson that sat there, that's still a monster, versus Conor McGregor. So that's the fun thing about the fight game. There's loads of interesting intricacies, and even number 5 to number 10, they're animals, Sean. They're monsters. Like, so, they could be world champions in a different weight class.
Well, Chandler wasn't even ranked when he went into this fight, you were saying. And he said, actually, after the fight, as he would, I mean, it's a game of advertising. You need to sell yourself big to kind of get that next rung down. He said, don't act like your level's above me on Khabib. I promise I will bury that man, but he's the champion for a reason. He deserves to ride off into the sunset. So he is pushing for a top fight. And if he's going to get a fight against, as you said, if he's going to get a fight against why am I struggling with his name? Poirier. That is a big ticket fight. He's ranked second right now in the division, and that sets him up. This is his chance to prove himself and to cement himself as a top fighter.
Well, Dana White, when interviewed, he said, if you spoke to any of the fighters, he said, the only person I spoke to is Khabib after the fight. He said, what did he say? And Khabib said, look, Dana, these guys are, they're not on my level. Like this, he said, be honest with me. He's like, do you honestly see either of these guys really pushing me? He's like, I don't see it. I don't think I'm getting too excited about it. So off the back of that conversation, we don't think he's going to have a fight with either Chandler. And I don't think he's going to rematch Conor. I don't think he's going to rematch Poirier. And I don't think there's the appetite to see the Poirier. Maybe Conor with a bit more ring time. We don't think that that's going to happen. And as a result, someone said, do you think Chandler and Poirier make sense maybe as a title shot? And he said that if Khabib doesn't come back and relinquishes his title, then I think, that's going to be the title shot.
So maybe Khabib should do a boxing match with the Undertaker. He's retired now. That might be the way forward.
Yeah, maybe, mate. Like, who knows nowadays, right? Like anyone's fighting anyone.
Yeah, which leads me to the sort of one of the things I read this week. It was after, and this kind of goes back to my Jake Paul thing, where I want to see Conor give it another go because he's not an old man. I want to see Conor get back into it. I want Conor to and I again, this is all new to me, but I'm this new fan level now. I'm really excited about it after just watching these fights the way I did. The time I invested in it was well worth it. I want to see Conor get back into it and Conor challenge the top levels because he's entertaining to watch leading up to the fight. And I think going into it, I loved watching his style because every time I've watched an MMA fight, a lot of it's been grappling and on the ground. And I think the kickboxing, so the boxing style adds just another layer to it. And maybe part of it is I'm more familiar with boxing than I am with MMA.
That's it for sure, Sean. Yeah.
But I don't think after that fight, I think it would be a bit embarrassing for him personally if he went now to box Manny Pacquiao or do any of this shit with Jake Paul. And I read, actually, there was an article that came out where Conor finally commented on Jake Paul. And Jake Paul's been just trolling Conor relentlessly over the last week. Big signs on planes at the beach calling him a pussy or something like that.
Really? Okay.
And he actually finally commented on it. And I think this is how I view this whole situation. When asked in general about YouTubers calling him out, McGregor told BT Sport, that is what it is. We'll see what happens. He seems like a confused little kid to me, to be honest. He's willing to get in there. I don't know what'll happen. It's not on the radar at the minute with the young lad. I know I have a teammate, Dylan Moore, and him and Dylan have been back and forth, so you never know. And that to me is why Conor has kind of grown on me because he's such a smart businessman. He's not going to go down that road. He's not going to, play into this back and forth game with somebody who is just a tick on his radar. I guarantee he's not at all intimidated or worried or could give a shit about Jake Paul. He probably Jake Paul has money, but Conor's proven himself time and time again, in his field. And he's gone toe to toe with Mayweather and made a good accounting of himself in the ring. And I can't see Jake Paul being someone that he's concerned about to box after boxing Mayweather. So I think that could be something maybe in 5-6 years for that could be a direction Conor goes. But I think if he goes that direction, or even if he goes Manny Pacquiao, I think I want to see him stick with MMA and just stop with this bullshit. He's already done Mayweather. I get that. That was a good decision. But anything else for him, if he's serious about MMA, should be MMA.
Yeah, I'd largely agree with you, mate. He's an amazing. Think of what you want, but he's an amazing businessman. He's got a fashion line, August McGregor. He's teamed up with someone. He's got his own fashion stuff. You look on the website; he's like the model for it. With the pinstripe suit with like "fuck you" on it, like in the pinstripes. He's got his own like endurance program, McGregor Fast. So he's got like an online fitness program. He's got proper whiskey, which is supposed to be absolutely huge. Like, I don't know how much money he has, but they're suggesting that I don't know if he's in the hundreds of millions and maybe even approaching billions if you value all of his companies together. So he's a very smart businessman. But underneath all of that is a lad from Ireland, from the streets of Dublin, and he's a fighter. Like, that is what he is. And he doesn't make. Do you know what? There are not many human beings on the planet that would obviously do what he did, but being in his situation would put themselves at risk to have their face smashed in. He doesn't need to do that because he would have got paid a lot of money for what we would consider a lot of money, but for what he would consider a lot of money, he would not. It's not a lot of money for Conor McGregor, that fight. He needs to do it for more than money. He doesn't need to do that. So I agree with you. I think he's got too much pride to walk out like that. I think, and there was enough in it, like you said, where he looked good enough, and I felt the same with Khabib. There was signs of it. You're like, and actually, he said that he wants to fight 7 times in the next 2 years. So
Conor,
that's what Conor said. Because he wants and actually, to his credit, he wanted 4 fights last year. But because of COVID, that obviously changed everything. So
that's what he kept saying in the post interview was, I'm almost as if it was ring rust. And not that he's one to make excuses, but I think that's a valid point. You know, he's going up
I
against
agree.
people who are sharp, and it's a scary place to be, the octagon. It's something I would never dream to do. And if it's one of those things where even with the leg kicks, it may have been something where he just has been out of it so long. You know, training as a boxer is going to throw your wiring off a little bit. You know, as far as going up against an opponent now that can kick you and tackle you, as opposed to just being able to keep your distance and stay safe with however many ounce gloves you have.
So Cowboy, who we fought last a year ago, is a stand-up fighter as well. He's a legend in the sport. So that was always going to be a stand-up fight. It's not like he's been boxing training now recently. He's probably not, he's been doing more than boxing training for a while, but there's a difference between the training room and the octagon, counter to what everyone else says. And that's definitely noteworthy. When he fought Khabib, he made a comment which was really interesting, in that John Kavanagh's head coach focused very solely on, it was kind of defensive play. So you've got this guy that's just all out attacking, and he's got all these weapons, and he's like, no, all we got to do is like stop Khabib taking us down. So they just did countless drills and stopping on anti-wrestling, takedown defense, and jiu-jitsu. And they were kind of like bringing, it kind of said, I just didn't like that training. I don't think that worked for me. We played Khabib's game. We didn't play my game, which is go out and stand up and fight. I was so concerned about being taken down. I actually got knocked down by Khabib, which no one thought would happen. So Conor probably, with that in his mind as well, because Cowboy fight was over quite quickly, not sure of where he was thinking or his strategy on that, but he was probably thinking with Dustin, I'm not going to worry about what Dustin's doing. Leg kicks, no, I'm going to do McGregor. I'm going to light him up wherever I want to light him up. And he may have been in the mindset of just not focusing on him. I'm going to do my thing. And like in football, maybe they weren't considering his set plays, wasn't considering some basics, and he got found out on it, and it made the difference.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens with the next set of bouts. So you said that Chandler Pereira has been not confirmed, but that sounds like it's in the works.
He said it. Well, he said that makes sense for the next title fight, because it sounds like Khabib doesn't want to come back and fight one of those two. So it looks like it's going. Chandler and Poirier makes sense. The only thing that is in the works which could rival that is Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira is on a tear at the minute. So if he beats Justin Gaethje, who's another, he's an ex-interim world champion. If he beats him convincingly, then he's going to have a shout for the title as well.
And we will cover that 100%. I am well into this, mate. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I wanted to change gears, though. Now that I'm well into it, I wanted to change gears. I wanted to talk about something a little bit closer to sort of my wheelhouse and what I'm familiar with.
Okay.
But I think it's an interesting conversation. So I and Hugh was with me when I first, I guess, was watching football in the same way that I've been watching MMA. And this was probably, like 9 years ago. And I'd been watching football as a sport fan, and started to really watch Aston Villa because they were near my area. And my whole view on Aston Villa, which I think links into where this conversation's going, was they were a team that was sort of upper tier. They had the infrastructure to be, a Champions League team. And I even maintain that when they were in the championship, that they have the infrastructure. So it's like if you were to say to a billionaire, I'm going to buy, I don't know, trying to think of a team here. Trying to think of a small lower tier team. Let's say, help me out here, mate. I'm struggling. Just some small team with like a 10,000 seat stadium.
I know exactly what you're getting at, Sean. That the Villa were basically well underperforming in the championship, and you know that they have the potential, with some money injected in it, some right players, the right manager, they could really make a go at it. Their stadium, their following is big. It rivals some of the biggest teams.
Bury. If you're a billionaire, you're not going to invest in Bury and say, I'm going to turn this into a top 4 club. You're not going to. It's just not an investment piece. Yeah. Whereas Aston Villa had the same potential infrastructure as City. That actually, their infrastructure was bigger than City for a while, even after City's billionaires had taken over and before the investment had been pushed into it. So Villa, in my view, were a team that was worth rooting for. They weren't like United or Liverpool, which was an easy team for an American moving to the UK just to support. I didn't want to pick the easy team. Chelsea was another option.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started supporting Villa, they went down. Like the Martin O'Neill walked out, and it was just downhill. Like every year was terrible, and this is the first year it's been really good. And this question, Aston Villa as a top 6 contender, was bounced around on a few interviews in the national media, and it strikes me as how far this club has progressed to now be in a serious conversation for a top 6 contender. And I don't know if you saw the City Villa match last week or watching the Newcastle match this week. That looks like a top 6 club that could potentially push for top 4.
Yeah, I was massively impressed with Villa when we took, as I'm a Man United supporter. So when we played them a few games ago, it was a fantastic match. It was like, that's just sport at its best.
Yeah.
Two teams just attacking each other end to end, just going for it. Both look like they're going to score. Really exciting, exhilarating game. Villa. I mean, I was thankful we got a win there, but it could have easily gone the other way. Villa could have beaten United. Then I saw Villa versus Villa versus City, and they accounted. I mean, City walked away with a win, so they'll feel really aggrieved because they could have beaten United and they could have beaten City.
I think it was a deserved win, but Villa looked like Villa were playing the counter-attack game, and that's where they're strong. So they defended amazingly.
Yeah, my take on it with City in particular was that City were dominating possession, but they just didn't look like they were going to score. And yet when Villa had the ball, which was in the minority, they looked like they were going to score every time they were running. They looked dangerous every single time running forward. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, City dominated the play, but Villa's chances were, I mean, they had they could have won that game. No two ways about it. And it was a stunner that really made the difference. But can Villa be a top 6 contender? Well, the Premier League this season with COVID, with the games coming at them thick and fast, there are 2 games a week now. There are injuries coming in. There are COVID cases. It's just been, what a season. It's anyone's year, I think, this year. I still think Liverpool and City are the teams to win. City, in particular, in the last couple of weeks have kind of edged it, although prior to that, I think you've got to give it to Liverpool. Yeah. Look at the points difference, Sean, from you're going down to Southampton top 10. You know, you're looking at 11 points from top to bottom. There's not a lot of points in that. So if you're looking at the top 6, 32 down to 27 even, like the top 11, 6 points in it. It's all to play for. Yeah, so they absolutely the way they're playing as well. I think they've given City and United a run for their money, and they spanked Liverpool earlier on, several weeks ago. So why not?
Yeah, and that's with 2 games in hand. Keep in mind, they've recently had a bit of a COVID issue with their first team, and part of the reason why I think it was out of the they bailed out of the cup because they fielded a team against Liverpool of under 18s. So I see them. I am a fan, so I'm obviously biased, but I think there's too many good teams in the league right now for them to even think about top 4. I don't think it's a ridiculous idea that if Villa ended up in the top 4, I don't think people are going to be absolutely blown away like the year Leicester won the Premier League, which is, I think, a totally different thing. But I think Villa top 6 is a reasonable shout. And I think one of the things that stood out to me this year that's different than any other year is they have the depth now to lose key players and still be able to play. So John McGinn, who is one of their best, I guess, central midfield players, was not playing. And they were able to slide in, oh man, I forgot his name. It was Nkamba. What is his name again? He hasn't even played that much, and he had an incredible game. But they have the depth now to cover when they have somebody who's out, and they absolutely dominated Newcastle last night. That was a game I would have expected the old Villa just to lose an ugly match after playing an inspired match against City, but they didn't. They yeah, and they're performing every week.
That's what good teams do. They doing it week in, week out, not just turning up for the big boys. I watched the highlights of the Newcastle game off the back of you suggesting let's talk about it. And Sean, there wasn't a highlight of Newcastle. It was all Villa. All I saw was Villa attack and scoring, and setting up opportunities to score. So again, I don't think Newcastle are the team to compare if you're a great team or not. However, you can only play against the opposition that are put in front of you, and Villa looked strong. So there are a lot of teams that can run. I'm a massive fan of Southampton. Southampton can really knock the ball around well. They're in with a shout. Look, you got Chelsea ninth, Villa are there. West Ham are just, David Moyes talk about the opposite of attacking, like that Conor McGregor defensive mentality against Khabib. They're grinding out wins. I don't like the way they play. Everton have looked great this year with a new manager.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Tottenham with Mourinho, I mean, they're in with a shout. Liverpool are probably playing the best football this year, aside from the last couple of weeks. City in the last couple of weeks have looked phenomenal. Leicester are in the mix. United are grinding away and making it work. A little inconsistent, but God, mate.
Don't forget, you got Arsenal down here as well.
You got
Arsenal starting to come into form a bit, and it is a highly competitive year this year, and I think it's going to be a really interesting outcome. And I think we're seeing the difference in not having a fan base available. I think it's taking away a lot of the advantages. Some of these, I mean, you do see United, you do see City at the top, but you're seeing a lot of these smaller clubs, these lower down clubs with a bigger fan base, who aren't able to take advantage of that because there's no fans in the stadium. I think that does make a difference with if you look at home records and away records.
Without a doubt. Like, to be fair, this is I was so pissed off at the way United played Liverpool. Did you watch that game?
No, I missed that one.
Oh, well, we missed an opportunity there because Anfield, I think Liverpool at home are the hardest team to play on the planet. And I'm looking at Barcelona, Real Madrid's, Juventus. I just think that when Liverpool are at home, they have a cauldron of fans, and it's so intimidating. And the football that they play is so intense. I think they're almost unbeatable at home. So they've been unbeaten for something like 600 plus days or something now. They haven't been beaten in 2 years. They look phenomenal, and now the crowds aren't there. There's an opportunity because that cauldron atmosphere isn't created. They're still holding their record, by the way. So full credit to them.
Have you ever been to a game at Anfield?
I have not, but again, I've heard. I know Rob, our mutual friend.
Rob, I went with Rob to a game.
You went for a game. Okay, how was it?
Yeah. It changed my view on the home and away experience for players. Specifically just going into a stadium. Because Anfield, if you've never been there, is this stadium. It's just crammed into this neighborhood. So even the players' cars, the thing I found that was really strange. So if you go to Villa Park, which I've been there many times, the players' cars are in a separate car park. You can see them, but there's a big, metal gate that, high 10-foot gate that protects, that car park. Liverpool, the players park where the fans walk. So what was his name? Skirtle was playing at the time, and I think he had something like a Bugatti, and it was parked right. I was standing right by his car, and for the players that are coming in, they have to go through this cauldron of people. It's claustrophobic just to show up to the stadium. And when you're in the game, every throw in, every kick you're making, you have to make sure you're not touching a fan every time you go back to make a corner kick. It has got to be on your head. I mean, players are professional. They get good at ignoring those things. But at Liverpool, you have to work that little bit harder to focus on the game when you're that close to what is a voracious fan base.
And one of the key differences between them and United fans as well is you'll have United are up there as one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Yeah.
So you'll get people all around the world going there. There's a lot more corporate at United. It's a much bigger stadium. They're slightly further away. Well, Liverpool, it's that kind of more, this is very generic, but there's more working class supporters that have supported them their whole life that are from Liverpool. Their dads are Liverpool fans. Their dads are Liverpool fans. They are proper true in the whole essence football fans. So when they go there, they are screaming. They're it means everything to them. Whilst I think you're going to get more neutrals and less kind of passionate Man United homegrown fans around that, as a percentage fill of the stadium as you would in a Liverpool. So the atmosphere is raucous, and they take pride in it. They want it to be intimidating. Yeah. They're screaming, and you could just hear it on the TV. You sense it in the way the teams play against them. So I was really disappointed that Man United didn't take it to Liverpool because Liverpool went at us for 20 minutes and looked unbelievable. And then it was kind of like Villa City. Liverpool looked amazing in possession, but we were comfortably owning them in the last third. And then whenever we got the ball, which was rare, and looked forward, I mean, they had Fabinho and who's the captain? Liverpool captain.
It's not Henderson, isn't
Henderson, yeah. So Henderson and Fabinho, two centre midfielders, were their two centre backs, and then Liverpool started to go off the pace a little bit, but we respected them too much. We were scared. We didn't like get after them and go for the kill, because we looked more deadly in front of goal. Although, in fairness, Liverpool looked way better than we did in possession. So they were feather taken there, and I'm just disappointed we wussed out. Like we weren't, we didn't step up to the mark, unfortunately. So and to be fair, Villa, the way you've been playing, Villa might have beaten them, like, because you just have this courage that we're going to get the ball, and we're going to go at you. And we looked a bit panicked when we had the ball. We were like scared of Liverpool, and Liverpool weren't kind of meeting the mark. We gave them way too much respect.
Yeah, Villa earlier in the year smashed Liverpool. It was like 6-1 or something,
5-7-2 or something, wasn't it? Yeah, it
and I think it just shows that the way Liverpool played, I think, was not found out, but they because the way Jurgen Klopp plays with very high line.
Yeah.
You start getting play, and I think United have the ability to break down Liverpool when they hold that high line, and it's teams like Villa who are just like the whole thing with them, and it's what Dean Smith has adopted. It's what he always liked playing before he came to Villa, was a very aggressive form of, and now, and I have to give credit to John Terry at Villa. They have, and the goalkeeper they got, the backup goalkeeper from Arsenal, that was probably one of the biggest signings of any club of the year. I'm blanking on all of my names now. Villa's goalkeeper. I'm a true fan.
Who is it?
Terrible. It's I know exactly who it is. It is it's because I'm in my 40s and my brain is no longer functioning. Martinez. So Emilio Martinez, he went through. He started in the cup for Arsenal. I think Arsenal won the FA Cup last year.
Yes, they did. And
he started every game, and he felt he had earned the right to start. He really backed himself, and I think he's probably one of the best, if not the best, keeper in the league this year. And he's played incredibly. Arsenal have lost out on what is probably, in my view, the best signing of any team, next to Fernandes.
I think that's a stretch. But I haven't seen enough of him to really. I haven't watched enough of Villa games to kind of stand up to him. But what I would agree with you on is Villa are holding at the back. They don't look vulnerable, and yet when they get the ball, you better get back, because they're coming at you, and they're a great team to watch.
The only reason I say that is the way Villa were leaking goals, and it's not as if they're not. There's still a lot of shots on target, and there's a lot of work that Martinez still has to do. And the only reason I say that is I think you can quantify in goals. Even if you look at set pieces, Villa were terrible against set pieces last year, and the massive difference in goals allowed. I think Villa are one of the top teams. Well, let's take a look. We've got it here. We can take a look. So Villa goals against 18. And if you compare that with teams, so they're in what, second or third in the league in goals against?
17 Tottenham, yeah. Mourinho was going to have a tough defense, and then City have got 13, so that's the best.
Where did Villa fall last year with goals against? So let's say goals against, I can't organize it from here, but Villa were down here, just barely survived, 67. So Villa were one of the worst, second worst in the league last year.
How many games are we in now with this year? We're over halfway, aren't we?
So we are over halfway. We're
at the halfway point, basically, aren't we? Like someone 19.
Villa are goals against 18, so 13. So City are better, Tottenham are better. So they are third best in the league in goals against from second worst.
Yeah.
So that's
one hell of a turnaround.
I see a massive difference, and for me, it starts with the keeper, not just because he's making saves, but how he's organizing and communicating with Mings and Konsa, who have had time to work together. And I think it's consistency. And I think that same thing, just to sort of make a total change, goes to the manager of United, who are leading. They've stuck with Ole. Solskjaer has stayed in. I know there was a lot of people wanted to see him out over the last few years. And I love the fact that United stuck with the manager and didn't make a change. And I think in the Premier League now, this happens all too often. Teams are so quick to make a change when a set of results or there's a bad year in place. So Liverpool, for example, if Klopp is still motivated, they shouldn't drop him because he's having a bad year. Man City didn't do that either. And I think that's why we're seeing United needed that consistency. They needed that consistent message and give a manager a chance to build his plan and to get his players in place.
The thing that frustrates me about football is that people lose sight that it's a results business. And of course, that's right, because everyone just looks at the table and you get paid for wins and going through trophies and winning titles. However, sport, like everything else in life, we should be not just looking at the outcome, it's the process. And Villa, having lost to United and also City, you could say, well, they dropped 6 points there, poor team. The way they played, I mean, I'd be nothing but proud as a Villa fan. They went at them. They could have won both of those games. You have to look further than just the points table. And whether you rate a manager highly or not, I think you just got to look at how the team are responding to them and seeing whether or not they could have had those 3 points. Because, the argument that counters the point on Ollie is that we haven't looked good. We look inconsistent, that sometimes we come up, we step up and we look phenomenal. Like, we can score against any team, but our defense looks vulnerable. And sometimes our midfielders and this pace, we play at a really slow pace. And it looks like we're kind of going through the motions a little bit, like we're 3-0 up or something, although we're 0-0. And you're like, hang on a minute, we need to get ahead before we start playing like this. So there's this inconsistency that people are getting frustrated with. Yes, we're top of the table at the minute, but we're not playing that well consistently. So that's where the process thing we've got to analyze. It's unfortunately a results business. And I wish we'd be a little bit more, we'd look at it, the bigger view, to see how we're playing, because Liverpool, although they've had a bad run of it, I didn't watch their game against Burnley, incidentally, where they lost, but the football they've been playing, you look at their last 6 matches, Sean, I mean, it's not looking great for them at the minute, but football they've been playing is absolutely, like, it's as good as anyone on the planet.
Yeah. It's you have teams that'll, let's say, hit the post 3 or 4 times a match. And that's all the difference. They're doing all the right things and they're missing by inches.
And the defense, at the minute, playing two midfielders at 2 centre backs is like that. I mean, this is the time to hit them because they're vulnerable at the minute. Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
If you look at the stats, if you just look at just the basic line here, if I and I don't watch a ton of United games, and as we're talking more sports, I'm going to start really paying attention a bit more. 25 goals against isn't brilliant. You're scoring goals and you're giving up goals at a higher rate than a lot of teams in the top 10.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think without looking at those numbers, I would have told you that. I think we would have been up there for the most goals scored because our counter attack is awesome, but our goal defense is what's letting us down. That we're just way too leaky. And personally, I don't like. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a brilliant one-to-one defender, but he's poor going forward. Maguire is hit and miss. He's good in the air, but he's slow. Lindelof, I think he would not get into any other world-class team as a centre-back. And Luke Shaw, the last couple of games he's looked good, but he still looks a little complacent for me. I find him a little frustrating.
I've never been totally sold on Luke Shaw.
I'm not either, to be frank. He has potential. I see it he won man of the match recently, and he did play really well. But let's look at the last 8 games. I'm haven't been overly impressed with him. But our defense is where it's letting us down.
Yeah.
If we firm that up, if we get a good centre back in, I think United are going to be a force. But he's had a couple of windows now to bring a centre back in, and we haven't done it.
Yeah, it's where, I mean, the games where you've lost against top teams too, you're just not scoring. I mean, 2-0 against Everton, Leicester. I didn't see that game. I don't know if that's something you should have.
That was a great game. That was a great game. Leicester did well there, to be fair. They're a great team.
But we'll see how things right now. First place, given where United have come from over the last 4 or 5 years specifically, you would have taken that at this point anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thought we transitioned from football to football. There was something I saw this week that was a joy. It was cringy. It was beautiful. So NFL teams are looking to add. Actually, to keep our production quality high. Detroit Lions new manager is talking shit. So that's what I'm going to put on the screen.
Okay.
So NFL Eagles, my team have hired coaches. There's a load of right now coaching positions being filled. The Detroit Lions, and I know you like football. I don't know how up to speed you are on it. I know you could sit down and watch a game and have a good idea of what's going on. But the Detroit Lions hired somebody by the name of Dan Carpenter, which I hadn't heard too much about him. So just before, I'm just going to double check before I play this for you. I'm going to give a bit of his background. So Dan Carpenter, new head coach. He was a coach. Sorry, played for. After going on draft in 2008, Carpenter signed a 2-year contract with the Miami Dolphins. So he played for the Miami Dolphins, Arizona Cardinals, New York Jets, and Buffalo Bills. And am I looking at the right person here? Let me play the clip. This is where my Dan Campbell. I'm such a dickhead. I am honestly such a fucking dickhead. I'm like, I didn't realize he. Interesting point. He was with the Miami Dolphins. That's probably where I got confused. But his coaching career, in 2010, Campbell began his coaching career when he was hired by the Miami Dolphins. In 2011, Campbell was promoted to the tight ends coach following firing of Dolphins head coach Joe Philbin. New Orleans Saints in 2016, Campbell was hired by the New Orleans Saints as their assistant head coach and tight ends coach under Sean Payton, and he was now hired in January 20th, 2021. So he's made quite a meteoric rise to head coach. So it's suffice to say he's pretty excited about the role. But this was making the rounds in U.S. news circles, and I wanted to share this with you.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Let me. I need to do this.
No
right.
sounder. Yeah.
No sound. I am honestly like it's amazing that we've had one view at this stage. I'm so bad at this. Here we go. All right. So this was what he was saying. I'm going to play this. I'm going to make sure the volume's up.
I'm really excited to hear this. I love a cringy clip.
It is. I find it cringy. You're probably not. I've probably built it up too much, but here we go.
I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right. Here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right. I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right. This community is strong. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right. And this city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right. It's found a way to overcome adversity. All right. And so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right. And when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right. And we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Oh,
I absolutely love it. I personally love that type of stuff. You can see that guy's passion. Like he needs to work on his craft a little bit to slicken it out, but you can't deny that guy's energy. He's there. He wants to change things. You can see how desperate he wants to, make an impact there. Like I don't know how good he is, whatever, but I love the energy where it's coming from.
I think we would agree that sounded better in his head driving to the stadium. He was thinking about that. He's like, I'm gonna show them. We're gonna bite kneecaps, and it's gonna be. And I think he's a bit nervous. You could tell by the sweat right here on his brow.
Yeah, and you could see actually he took a moment as someone that knows anxiety. Right,
yeah, I identified this.
He swallowed, and you could see. I don't know if he was getting emotional, like he was going to cry. But I think he may have just been getting like too much adrenaline to his brain. But that would be my guess. But I love the energy. But yeah, it kind of the words were a little bit mixed, and he probably would have done a better job than me anyway. But I love where the guy's coming from. Good luck to him.
I
fight a kneecap off.
But there's going to be, what I would worry about is I could see a lot of players that are going to be playing for him who've never worked with him or have never met him are going to maybe lose just a little bit of buy-in to him, because these are professional athletes who aren't afraid to go in, and the NFL, like, rugby, like football, any professional sport, MMA, you're a gladiator. You are playing against people that want to bite your head off already. And I see there's going to be some buy-in issues to some players going, what the fuck is this guy on about? My kneecaps? Because I don't know, that kind of rah stuff in the NFL is gonna pay off, but we'll see what happens. But I definitely think he went down a road that he probably didn't want to go down, and as he was halfway through that, he was just like, I need to get out of this. And he doubled down on the kneecap again. I was like, no, don't, just get out. Oh, it was cringy.
I love both of them. No, mate, I loved it. I love the fact that he went with it. He went down a path, and he just, right, I'm here. I'm just going to keep on digging.
Right.
I respected that.
He said that the first kneecap, he's like, I'm here. This is what I'm going for it.
Two kneecaps. Yeah, that works.
On the way back up.
Yeah.
It makes me question whether he's going to be a successful coach, because I'm now wondering if he's gotten this job because he was so, I don't know, emotionally invested into success. I'm now wondering, does he have the content to back up his cheerleading ability? And this is something I'm going to be watching for.
Yeah, and now this is where the sport dynamic gets really interesting, because I know so little about American football. I absolutely love watching it, but I can't appreciate the fine art that it is. But what I would state from other sports is that certain teams need certain things, and actually that type of energy, I feel Man United are kind of missing a bit of that. The difference is that in football, in soccer, it's such a highly skilled sport that you can get as ramped up as you want. That's not going to necessarily help you on the ball. Like if you get too intense on the ball, you need to have some fluidity and confidence and calmness on the ball.
Yeah.
But then when you lose the ball defensively, you need to be more like that, get after you. American football, there's obviously I would say this is where I get, I feel there's less skill involved, and it's more physical attributes than football. I think there's a huge amount of skill involved with American football. I'm not saying there isn't, but I think there's more physical that comes into play, much like rugby. So rugby, I think, there's a lot of skill involved in rugby, but I think there are more facets to football as a skill base than there are in rugby. But rugby, they would blow them out of the gym on fitness tests, strengths tests, and everything. And it's the same for American football, is my kind of correlation, right or wrong. So the rah-rah side of it, does a team need a kick up the ass like that? Like you said, if they're being lethargic, these people that are multimillionaires and they're showing up and just taking, they're letting their standards slip on the training round and on their diet and stuff like that. Maybe they do need a bit of that. I don't really know. But like you said, the downside is that people that bring to the table that type of energy are sometimes criticized for not having the kind of skill to back up the kind of the strategy, the tactical nous, the intelligence. And I don't know anything about this guy. So it'd be interesting to see, coming back to this, Sean, whether or not this new man makes a difference to the Lions.
And we'll have to, I'm not going to go into it because we're going to have to talk about the technical piece in NFL and how wildly wrong you were about that. But that's okay. We can talk about that later. The one for me, I don't know if any of my friends would agree with this, the gold standard, because I think there's some craft into being a hard ass in the NFL, because you're dealing with people that aren't easily intimidated. And I think there's a craft to it. And one of the people in the NFL who, in my view, has done a really good job of it, and I don't know if this clip is going to be good, I'm going to play it in the background, is John Gruden, the Raiders coach. Now, he was a longtime Buccaneers coach, won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, then went into the booth. I think it was Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. And he came back 2 years ago, and he is, for me, really good at the mind games. I'm going to just play some of his clips
Clock
here.
is running. Get the ball back. Let's get the ball back. Man.
So this is John Gruden.
Oh, wait, Seth. Good shot, Derek. Boom, boom. Beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
And he's aggressive,
Great.
but he's intelligent
Great.
with how he does it.
Good. I like it.
See if we hear anything of context here.
Yeah.
I love football.
Yeah.
Love you, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. We're getting better.
Yeah.
You feel it?
I do.
Got the soft skills too.
Good job today again. Good job. Hit that hard.
There was a
Hey, this-
clip.
Go on,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Sorry, what were we
Clock
saying?
running.
I was just going to say that kind of approach really reminds me of the Jurgen Klopp coming back to soccer, where like he's someone that will just drop F-bombs and go absolutely ballistic on the sideline if stuff isn't. You only get on the wrong side of Jurgen Klopp. He's just like, he will get in your face. Like, you know, he's got that aggression side, but he's also very calm and calculated in interviews and can speak intelligently and admit when there's mistakes. He's got like, and he puts his arm around his, you genuinely get a feel that like, he loves his players and the players love him. And that's a true leader. Like having that full range. Like I want someone that can lose their shit a little bit, but they also need to be really composed and show grace and humility. And it's just having that range.
Yeah.
And if someone is just super composed all the time and they can't get, like sometimes you do need to be able to, you know, ramp up a team and get, you know, sometimes you just need fire up your ass. So this guy that we've just watched, the Detroit's Lion coach, well, okay, we've seen some energy. Like, has he got the softer skills there? Can people relate to him? And I mean, what a challenge being a manager of a professional sports unit to try and get the whole thing gelled together. It's about as hard as it gets.
Well, he's. I think what we'll see whether this guy can add some craft to it. So it's not just a matter of him going in with the raw, or whether he has some context, whether he can create that buy-in. And I think that's going to be the trick for him. I think with all these new NFL coaches, it's a bit of an unknown quantity. Any new coach that comes in as to whether they can get buy-in with players or not. So it'll be an interesting year. It's something we'll pay attention to as we move forward. We have the Super Bowl coming up, so we may touch on that over the course of the next few weeks. It's coming up in the next 3 weeks.
That's right. I mean, Two Bears and One Cave are doing a special. They're doing a. Have you seen that?
They're with Warren Sapp.
Let's go.
It is with Warren. That's confirmed, is it?
I thought it was with Warren Sapp because there was a preview. Sorry, it broke up there for a second. There was a preview where Warren Sapp was calling in. Let me see if I can find that. Actually, that's what I was looking for whilst we were doing it.
That would be my guess, because they were going to do like an NFL podcast with him, but I think that fell through. So when they said we've got a special guest for this Super Bowl Sunday, we were doing it live with, I just put two and two together. I thought my money would be on Warren Sapp, but it was
on Instagram. I think they had a bit of a preview they were showing, and it was Warren Sapp. Yeah, it was. It's going to be on Instagram. Two Bears are going to have, I think, Warren Sapp with them on the game. So it's something I will definitely be paying attention to. So here you go. Good time this week, mate.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Are we wrapping up?
Well, we've covered the topics that we were planning to cover. So it was a highly efficient show.
Now, I wanted to show you something.
Yes, please.
And maybe we do, maybe we do this off air, because I was losing my shit laughing, and I was like, I don't know if Lou's going to find this funny. I was like, Lou, do you want to watch this clip? And it's on Two Bears, One Cave, their most recent episode from last Monday. And me and Lou were on the couch laughing. So I thought, I've got to show Sean. And I remember last time, I can't remember if we were on camera and recording or not, but I thought I would show you it. Do you want to watch
the water clip? Yeah, let's pop it on now. So what's the clip?
Okay, so do you want to? Shall I talk you through it, or shall I screen share and attempt that?
You screen share. Why don't you? Because we haven't had you do anything technical on the show. It'd be nice to sit back and let you do some fucking thing.
Right.
Seriously.
What I'm going to do now is just stall as I get the clip up first, and then I'm going to. The whole sounding thing is going to be a new challenge in itself, but I'm just going to put this. I've got it roughly there, okay. And I'm going to preface now, so I'm going to share the screen, see if I can do this.
I think I'm going to add it to the thing.
You're going to okay, so I'm going to cancel it for a moment, just so you
you can add it, but then it's going to be an option for me to add. So you need to share screen, and then I have to add it.
And I need to click share audio, share your entire screen, okay. So tell me if you can see. I don't know if I'm doing this right.
There we go. You're on. Look.
Yeah. What? I can't. Oh, okay. Right. I can't look at that screen. I'm just going to look at the Two Bears thing. So I just want to preface this at the moment, right? Because Tom went through an accident, as we know, a horrendous accident.
that. Yeah.
And that's maybe for another day to talk about that. But they start talking about what would happen if they lost one of their wives. What would you? And so Tom asks Bert, what would you do if Leanne died? So how soon would you go back on the market if Leanne were to die? So I'm just going to roll the clip out for about 4 minutes because you need to listen to the whole thing. And maybe no one gives a shit about this and it's just me and you watching it, enjoying it. But do you know what? I'm all right with that. Okay.
We have nobody watching anyway. It's fine.
Okay. Let's do this. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I can hear it.
Or how long do you have to do that for? 6 months or longer?
What's crazy is other people put their shit on you.
Yeah.
And go, hey man, what about, and you know that I've fucked myself because I've shared so much about me and Leanne's relationship.
Yeah.
That people would be like, I mean, there would be people who would be like, I don't think you can ever be married. I mean, guys, it's been 6 months.
You could get remarried.
No.
No? Why not?
There would be people that would.
But don't you think you're a relationship guy? That like,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you think you just date somebody?
No, I definitely. I couldn't date someone for a year, and no, people wouldn't let me date someone for a year.
Right. So let's say a year passes.
A year passes.
Yeah.
And then I start dating someone. People would think it was too soon. I think I would be in my head about what people thought about it. I would definitely be in front of that storm, going like, "Hold on, pump the brakes."
I think you'd get married within a couple of years.
Oh,
though.
I would start fucking chicks so quickly.
I said I think you'd get married.
I would get into a relationship within 3 months of dating because I know myself and I'm just I need things.
Yeah.
I'm too needy. I'm too codependent. I would get in within a relationship.
How old is she?
Probably 30s. I talked to my buddy Tony. He was talking about having another kid, and I got so jealous. I was like 30s, 32, 34.
She is now?
Oh, right now she's 30.
We're talking about a chick that's like almost 20 years younger than you. That's what you think you're doing?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What would I talk to her about?
Right. So maybe.
Oh no.
Maybe
fuck.
38, 39.
Ugh. I fucking have a birthday party this quick for someone. Yeah, let's be 20 years younger than me.
Jesus.
I guess. I mean, that's a respectable. How old's Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend?
So Bert's 48, Sean.
Yeah.
How old's Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend? If he can. Oh,
We're getting to the good bit, mate. Stay with it.
It's been good anyway.
He's 23 years older.
There we
Yeah,
go.
you're right.
So 20 years is good.
20
The
is
age,
good.
it's an eyebrowsing age gap. Oh fuck, never mind. I definitely would have to date someone older.
Older?
Just because, not older than Leanne. I'm not going there. Fucking we're in phases for the vaccine, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Jesus. You know, fucking depressing. She was like, "Oh my God, I can get a vaccine in March," and I was like, "For real?" She's like, "Well, yours is June." And I was like, "Oh, fuck."
Zero filter.
How sad would you be if I died, though?
Oh my God. I would be probably more sad. Just how much of my life would change. I know that's what Leanne wants to hear. Oh, fuck.
Oh my God.
I would never be able to replace you.
Oh,
Oh, fuck. I know that's what Leanne wants to hear the whole time.
That's, of course, gonna
Never, I would never get over it. Never get over it.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I would be inconsolable if you died. But if my wife died,
Oh, fuck. Oh.
I would never go. I'd be having charity events for you every year. I'd fucking cry on every show I was on.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Oh, fuck.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh,
That was so
that
good.
was it. I did. Oh God, Sean. I was losing my shit there again. I thought it was so funny. I was crying when I first time I was like, "Will Lou find this funny?" Because she's my other half, but I was like, as a guy, you can kind of I can understand that. Like, you know, there's a special bond that you have with your friends, and like it's just that there aren't many people that would just you know in front of hundreds of thousands of people. He knows his wife's going to see that and watch it and listen to it, and just admit freely that he would be more hurt by losing his friend with his wife.
I think he's got the one thing I will say, because I watched that. I haven't watched it in the last couple weeks. It's been a bit crazy, and I've been so focused on work. I can't, because the podcast is so good, it distracts me too much from doing my job. And,
Okay.
and I think he's got such a good relationship with his wife, and they have so much trust. He can sort of say what he thinks without any sort of, you know, concern that either. But, yeah. But that is hilarious. Yeah, I don't know if I put myself in that position, if I would answer the same way, but it is hilarious that it's like, he was talking about, 3 months I'd probably have sex with, you know, start having sex with somebody else. I'd be 20 years old. And what happens if you die, if your friend dies? I'd be inconsolable. I couldn't move on.
I'd never get over it. Yeah, I couldn't replace you, but like I could replace Leanne in 3 months to a year.
Oh God, that's a weird idea. If I lost Nick, I see. You know what? For me, it's a little bit different because I just don't want to go through the admin of meeting somebody else.
Oh, mate, dating. Because I missed that whole boat. I've never been on a dating app. I've only been on a date with Lou. I've had like date nights with my ex from uni, but
yeah.
I mean, I've never been out meeting someone on a date like you get like on all these apps and stuff. So I've totally gone past me. I'd hate it. I'd absolutely hate it.
I don't want to go. Yeah, I think if I had lost Nick, it would be a good like 5 or so. I probably wouldn't have a relationship until like I was too old to want to have sex again. That's probably when I'd be in my next relationship. Because I
don't know. I don't know. I've been together with it. How long have you been together now?
So we're a bit weird because I moved here. All right, so we got together probably about, let's say we got together probably about 16 years ago, and we've been married. We got married in 2006, so 14 going on 15 years. But we broke up and got back together within, let's say, 6 months of getting married, because just the whole long distance thing, we either kind of had to make it work or didn't. So it's since 2000, let's say I've known her for 16 years, and I just couldn't fathom in this older, hideous body going through dating again. Because like anytime like you get together with a girl, and even the first time, you know, she sees you naked, it's like, that's like the worst surprise party in the world, because like you don't know what the reaction is going to be. And there's a lot of stress. Like I'm to the point now where I can be naked and I don't care if she sees me and I'm a hideous mess. I don't want to have to go through that whole process of building up a woman to see me naked. I mean, it's months. It's maybe even years to get to that stage. I mean, I'm a pretty gross individual.
Well, I think again, you're being really hard on yourself, mate. And I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be you in your body, in your head. But I mean, I certainly wouldn't feel like that. I don't feel like I'm, you know, a phenomenal looker, but I don't feel that I wouldn't be worried about that thing. I think it'd be more about me. Like someone, I don't know if anyone would get me again. And I feel like that's what's difficult, right? When you've been in a long-term relationship, you're like, she knows all of this shit about me, all of my annoying habits and everything, and she's still here.
See, but that's so like,
is anyone else going to take my shit? And the reality is that, yeah, there probably would be someone, as there would be for her, and as there would be for you or Nick. And it's just one of those things that you would just get, you know, I think you would just get used to. Like it's something that you probably would find someone else, and it wouldn't be anywhere bad as much as you think it is. But I'm with you, mate. The whole thought of going through that whole cycle and putting yourself out there again, I mean, it'd fill me with dread.
But I don't agree with you on the whole point with all my little sort of inconsistencies and things that she knows about me that are embarrassing. Just not just the way I look, but who I am as a person. I would have the chance. The only benefit I think of having to date again is you have the chance to like fix those things with somebody else. Like it's easy to hide those things. It's easy to reinvent yourself. But if you're gross to look at, that's a different thing altogether.
Well, I don't think you're gross to look at, Sean. For what
You've never seen me naked.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, well, that's true.
Close.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. No,
I've seen you in a hot tub.
You have, yes.
Yeah.
But it's something that I personally don't want to go through that again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope that we don't. Both of us. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I love about even now being in sort of I love being married long term. I love being in a steady relationship, and I don't know how you feel about it with Lou, but it's just like you get to that level of comfort I'm with my wife, and it's not always perfect, but it's just so easy. It's like, I've got my partner in life now, and I don't want for anything. It doesn't mean that I don't desire anybody else, but that's just sort of in my head. I never feel the need to act on any of that.
Absolutely.
The second, my wife and I have always said, if we ever feel like we need to act on something, with another relationship, that's when we got to just call it. We'll respect you, but let's just call it. And I've never felt that need to act on anything.
Yeah, mate, I'm totally with you, mate. 100%. I wouldn't change it for the world. And you find other people attractive, as Lou does, and as Nick and you do. I think that's just a normal thing. But there's the acting on it, which is the difference maker. But yeah, I think it would be very difficult to imagine getting to this level again with someone else. I think that's the reality for me. It
would be impossible. I would just, what I would do is I don't
think it's impossible. I think it is absolutely possible, but I think it would be difficult, and maybe you wouldn't get it.
You know what though? I think the level of me or you not giving a shit. Let's say we lost our spouses. We got to a point where we were okay with it. The fact that we wouldn't give a shit would make us more attractive. Would make it harder for us to stay single longer than if we were trying.
Mate, I think that's the goal, though, right? Isn't it? Like from the dating side of it, you just gotta. He who cares less wins.
Yeah.
And the less bothered you are about the other person, like the more desperate you're coming across, like the more repellent you are. But
more mentally, not physically, because you should probably still shower and clean things up and look presentable. Because that's the other part of not caring too.
Well, that's true. I think
that's self-respect.
Keeping on top of things a little bit, keeping it trim, keeping it shaved.
But we do well with that, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? By the way, mate, last week I shaved the top of my head off. It's right at the back there because I big razor mine and I actually chopped a little bit, so I'm gonna have to let this grow for another week.
Mate, you need to get the Bulldog razor. I'll show you what I got.
Is this the foil thing?
Yeah, it is changed my world.
Yeah, you're loving it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll explain why. I'm going to share my screen, the one I have. No, that's not the one I have. I don't have the gold, but let me find it here. I'm going to share my screen. Now you know how hard it is to do. You're not going to take the piss out of me anymore for doing it.
I actually, I don't feel it's a problem, even though I chopped my head. The only reason I did that is because I was in a rush, and I don't know why. It was a new razor as well. I think I only had one shave on it before, and for some reason I was pressing too hard, and it just I felt it instantly. I was sliced. I was like, oh no, and it's probably like a thumbnail. That's what I kind of had a flap. I left it up. Yeah. But yeah, outside of that, I really enjoy doing the show. I actually quite enjoy the process. So okay, so it's so
this is waterproof. Mine isn't this level. It's only got the 4 foils on it. But I got mine in. That's a really good price for that. Actually, I paid £20 more for the one down. Fuck, you need to get on that.
Oh, okay. So do you have to change the razors then, Sean? Like how often?
They say you should do it once every 6 months or so. Which I don't mind. The whole reason because I used to shave my head with the not the foil thing, but the
clipper off, with
the clipper, the zero clipper, and it was a bit messy. You'd have hair that you'd have to just sort of brush off, but you had to do it less often. This goes in the shower. Because we're trying to get rid of plastics. I use a bar of soap, like it's a shave bar, so it's for shaving.
Oh right, yeah.
And all I do is I pop it on, and it's got it's a palm shaver. So it's got those little indentations. I'm pointing as if you can see me. It's got these little indentations here. So that's where your hand goes, and you do this. And it takes 5 minutes to do. It's in the shower, so it's all nice and tidy. And I can't recommend it enough. And I charged it. It's got a digital charging thing on top, so it says what percentage it's at. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like in hand.
Okay, so you won't get caught out.
Yeah. So right now I charge mine on December the 1st, and I shave my head twice a week, every week, and I'm down to 45%. And I haven't charged it since then.
That's pretty good then, man.
And it's still just as sharp. And I don't even. I'll buy probably another foil in. It doesn't feel like it needs it, but I'll probably buy another foil in maybe another 3 or 4 months. So maybe like, let's say 1 foil every 8 months, something like that. And
so how much are the foils?
The foils, you can get them for like 20, 30 quid, I think, the good ones, or you can get a cheap one for 15. There's a few different foils that you can fit to it.
Now it bugs me, which is the reason why I didn't go down the full route, because I've seen the ones where you have like, it's like a 1 bar.
Yeah.
Like half the size of a pen, like that. And then it's, the hairdressers use. I looked into doing that, and it's supposed to be, close to a buzz cut.
Yeah, you can see, I did mine yesterday, and you can see it a little bit already.
Okay, no, I'm sticking with I'm definitely keeping to mind, because I've got like the old Mac 3 razor. I use it for probably a couple of months before I change the actual razor clip. They only cost about 8 quid. That 8 quid will last me pretty much the year. And I get it completely slick because you've got a razor. I back, because my hair naturally comes down, so I reverse it and shave it, and it'll last. I do it once a week.
I used to shave with a razor. I don't. It's all right. I just found that the razor, because I got the cheap, not the cheap one, but the old school 2-edged one. The old ones that you screw them into the base.
Oh, like Bic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's not a Bic. It's not like one that you open up. It's like what you would have shaved with in the late 70s, early 80s, where you buy a thin, paper thin razor, you put it on the head and spin it, and it's got it's double sided. And it works really well to shave your head. But I just found like it took ages to do. I don't know, how long does it take you to shave your head?
Yeah, mate, it definitely takes longer. So you're looking at probably about 20 minutes for me.
Yeah, this takes me 5 minutes in the shower, and everything's tidy. There's no mess whatsoever. Everything goes down the drain. So I'd recommend it, but if your time isn't an issue, for me, I just want to get it in and out and done. I couldn't recommend that enough. It's been the best hair and beauty product that I've purchased.
Look at us doing a beauty segment here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. But you're going to stick with your razor option.
Yeah, I quite like the thing is, I love it when it's nice and slick. So now at the minute, I would normally shave on a Sunday, but I'm just letting my head at the back just like scab over and do and heal. But I normally just razor it once a week, and it's lovely and soft for like 3 days. And I love how smooth it is. And it's only really, halfway through the week that the bristles start to come through. And even now, mine looks probably as short as yours, right? There's not a huge amount in it, so I quite like. I like the bold look because I have very little here and the thick outline, so I want to keep it bold so it looks more consistent.
For me, I find the bald head feel when I shave, because for whatever reason the top, like, it's bald, the back is bare, I can't feel any hair. I get freaked out by that feeling, but it gets really hard at this stage. I don't have a hat with me, because it turns into this stupid Velcro, and putting on a knit hat in the winter with the snow we've had today, it's just been like, it's ridiculous. So you're going to have to come from behind and just sort of fold it down. It's like putting on a condom, putting on a hat when you have a Velcro head.
I do know what you mean, though. Yeah. I do have a weird
feeling at times.
When you have your head on the pillow and you try and turn and the pillow's stuck to it once it starts to grow back. But yeah, it sounds like we're both quite happy with what we got there, and there'll be people out there that don't like the razor side of it, and that would have definitely helped. I
think what I was impressed with was the battery life for that Bulldog is still. I probably can go another 2 months with that, and that's awesome. But I think the other thing I want to do is we're trying to reduce the plastics in our life, and this
good for you.
Yeah. On another note, I have to pick a new company car, and I found this interesting since we're riffing a bit.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to have a full electric car in December.
Are you? What is it?
I don't know yet. So I have a chance of getting a Tesla, potentially.
Nice.
So we've been debating this because we've got our company was bought out by another company, and Tesla would be my dream car. even the Model 3, the basic Model 3, it's a techie car. It's well made. It's electric. It does 360 miles. And we do what's called, for anybody who's watching who is from the States, I work in Britain, and I can, the new company car scheme I have does what's called salary sacrifice. Now, salary sacrifice, if you're paying into something directly before it gets taxed, the government actually gives you a credit for the tax you would have paid. So the 350 pounds I'm paying, budget I get a month for a car, is actually 420 because I get the tax credit or something applied to it because I'm doing salary sacrifice. And also I'm currently paying 160 pounds in tax on my Audi currently. So I have an Audi A3 and I'm paying tax on that. Now the electric car is almost tax-free. It's like £2 a month in year 3 or year 4, which means I have, if I want to say I want the same standard of living, the same paycheck, and I want a new car, that gives me, so let's say 420 plus 160. So that gives me 580 pounds a month. And we have a lease. There's a benefit with the company where you can do a salary sacrifice and they'll lease a car and insure it and everything. So you don't have to have a company car. I just get an allowance, but I can use this car scheme that's called Tusker to get a car that I want through the company. And I don't have to own it. I don't have to repair it. I just pay the monthly payments out of my paycheck and I get salary sacrifice benefit. And because I need a company car, I don't want to buy a car. I don't want the liability of having a car if the company are going to give me a reasonably priced car out of my allowance. So effectively, I don't want to pay for a car and I want to have a car, and I can do that. So that means I can get the 580 pounds is in Tesla range. So that's possible. But there's also, if I get a Kia, so Kia Niro makes one that does 280 miles, I could get the Kia Niro and an extra 150 quid a month in my pocket after tax because I'm not, I'm getting some of that allowance in my pocket now. So that 350 pound allowance is now coming into my pocket and I'm not paying the 160 pounds in salary in tax on the Audi.
Yeah, my friend did this. A really wealthy friend was able to, like, he's in the car industry as well, an engineer, and all of his friends were like getting all the smart. They were actually paying for their car, and the amount of money that he earned from the car in the end, like he went with like a Seat Leon, really on fuel back in the day. I think he's still got the same car that he had. He's now retired, but I can't remember the figures, but it outstanded me. He earned, it was like in the 10,000s plus of money on that car that he then invested that money with because he didn't want anything on it. He wanted the cheapest possible route that he could get it that was economical, reliable, didn't care how it looked. People would comment on it as well. Like, oh, why didn't you use a company car? It's like, this is a company car. Like, why are you using that? Like, why don't you get another one? It's like, because I want to get paid. So he got paid to have a cheaper car. And it was like, God, I only had a company car once in my life for 1 year, and with my publishing business, you can use it. You can put money into a car as long as you use it, and you have a benefit in kind. So you can get some you can have some like extras for the car that you have. But it's only really when my property company takes off that I could actually justify the use of having a business car. Because at the moment I'm home and I won't ever need it. But mate, for you, you're right. I didn't really think about that, but Tesla is built for Sean because it's just on a different level with the tech, and I imagine you'll geek out on it. I think you'll be in love with Teslas if you go ahead and get it.
I was in one in Dubai on a business trip up there, and it was it was incredible. But it's not just that. I'm a fan of Elon Musk. He's a problem solver. I like that he's looked at this whole car thing differently. But I'm not sold necessarily on going that direction. And the reason I would go Tesla, and so the Tesla means what I believe it means. We're going to find out in the next month what the actual numbers work out to. But I'm friends with one of the accountants at the company who understands. He was explaining to me why my 350 pound allowance is actually 420 as far as the money I get to put in. And the Tesla for me would be, I can just live my current life, same money I'm making, which 160 a month in benefit in kind is not unreasonable. I'm not paying for insurance or tires or MOT or anything like that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I could probably keep the same salary and swap out the Tesla for the Audi. Great. That's a winner right there. The idea that I could get a Kia that does 280 miles, that looks good, and the Kias are well reviewed. There's a Hyundai Kona that's 300 miles. But the Tesla is all-wheel drive. And we're seeing today that would be great. It's stopped snowing finally. But also the Tesla does 360 miles. And in my mind, the Tesla is proven tech, and there's more charging points because they're the ones that are building the more comprehensive infrastructure. I've also learned that the Teslas charge cheaper, so they're more efficient charging units. So if you build one into your house, so I could probably get away with a Kia. It's going to be a bit of a difficult debate. I could get away with a Kia, and I'd be quite happy with it probably. My golf clubs will fit in the back, so that's like 80% of what I'm looking for. However, it's just, you have a chance without spending any more money to get like that awesome car. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where I go with it. But December, I think it's crazy now. We're in a day and age where I didn't realize how many electric cars are on the market that do 250 plus miles. I didn't realize the charging points on motorways will fill up most cars, the new cars 2021, 80% in 45 minutes, and there's tons of them. And most people aren't going to be driving 300 miles a day anyway. So it's been a bit eye-opening for me, and the electric car is the only way to go forward. 3 pence a mile on what you're paying on your bills as well. So I would probably be paying 10 pence a mile, 8 pence a mile on my, and I'm not getting a diesel, you get penalized for it. So on a petrol, I'd probably be paying 10 pence a mile. So that's 7 pence a mile for every personal mile I'm doing is money in my pocket.
That's it, mate. It's the future. It's where we're heading. It makes total sense that, even in the last couple of years, 2 to 3 years, you're seeing it even in the local town where I'm from, you're seeing electric points. I didn't think I'd see that for like 10 years, but
most hotels have them now.
That's it, mate. Supermarkets are having them. It's where we're going. So it makes sense that at some point, we're getting on the bandwagon. It's funny enough, we went past one today. I can't remember which car it was, but I kind of made a comment that, what really pisses me off is that you look at the electric cars and they're just purposely made by the manufacturers to look crap, to look boxy, to look, those crappy discs that's supposed to be kind of futuristic. They're blocky looking. They're kind of ugly compared to that same make, like a Volkswagen, Golf versus the Volkswagen, E, whatever it is. The petrol diesel versions are still made to look sexier because they want to sell that, they want to keep that market going. They want to differentiate it but that's where Tesla stands out, because they're not trying to, they're just trying to solely look great from electric point of view. They've got no other comparison.
Yeah, but this is what I thought. So these are the ones I'm looking at. This is the e-Niro. That looks like a good car to me. It's a good looking car.
Yeah, it looks all right.
And then there is
That's like a standard car to me. It doesn't look like an electric car.
Hyundai Kona, electric, I think is the other one. So let's just take a look at images of that.
So these are like bigger units, actually, Sean. I was expecting a smaller car.
The longer distance cars, I think. This is what I'm finding. So if you look at I'll show you in a second. So this is the e-Niro. I don't think it's as good looking, but I'm more than happy with that.
I just don't like those the alloys, mate. That kind of bugs me. The rest of it looks fine though.
Those are standard alloy. I mean, yeah, I don't think compared to the Niro, the Niro looks way better to me than the Kona.
And then bring up the Tesla. Bring up the even
the Tesla Model 3. So Tesla Model, which I like the Tesla. It's simple, it's clean, it does the job. It looks good.
It just looks like I don't like those discs on it, but
yeah, but I mean that's normal car. It's just a preference. You could have those rims on any car. Yeah, those alloys could be on any car. There's also, I have a friend looking at the, I think Jag has one that's within, you can get them possibly cheaper than the Tesla Polestar.
Okay.
So let's take a look at that one. So that's the Jaguar Polestar.
Yeah.
But you look at like the ones BMW made. BMW is a hideous one. I think they have a regular electric car, but they have an i3, and that only is 100.
Mate, I want to be sick on that. That looks disgusting. Like it's like a box. Look at their i8 though. Their i8's pretty sexy.
But the i3, the smaller the car, I find the shorter the distance, and I think you can hold a bigger battery and carry a bigger battery in a bigger car.
So this was like to rival the Tesla Model S, but yeah, I mean, looks beautiful. The doors do the Lamborghini thing as well, don't they? They open upwards.
I wish that was a bit more modern, because for me, the doors that go up just make so much more sense. Every time I get out of a car, especially over here, when I get out of a car, doors going up. I don't know, because the Tesla, what is it? There's the one Tesla, the SUV Tesla.
Is it the X?
That's the
Model X.
Is it? Oh, it might be. Let's just take a look at that.
Yeah,
is
put
the
Tesla.
Model X. It's the Model.
I think that's the one where the doors go out.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah, far right. You can see there. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Tesla Model X, that's the one with, and for me, the doors that hinge up, it just makes so much sense. I don't know why more manufacturers aren't doing that.
There must be a downside as well, because you got DeLorean when that came out, and you got Lambos do it, but there haven't really been that many cars that do it.
Yeah. I think it's manufacturing, because there's a lot of cars that, you know, we're talking about parts or replacement parts. They're not all going to be using Tesla parts necessarily. Oh, well, Tesla may be different, but I think a lot of manufacturers want to keep the baseline parts consistent for, you know, ease of access as a manufacturer. If they're going to be producing cars, they want the doors to all be the same mechanics. I think. I don't know. That's me guessing.
Well, mate, I was close. I was close to considering the electric when I got my car in November 19, and I actually stated then that the next car will probably at least be a hybrid, if not fully electric.
Yeah. Nick is probably going to have to get an electric in the next 2 or 3 years, and that stresses her out a bit. She doesn't like the idea that she could be caught out or she couldn't get to electric. And I think there's right now, I think it's not something to be worried about now. What'll be interesting in 4 years, 3 years, when everybody has an electric car, what if you need to stop at a services in every electric point? Or is the infrastructure going to be built up enough to cover everybody needing electric? But in 3 or 4 years, though, the chargeability will be close to 10 minutes, and you're going to be fully charged. We're not far away from that.
And what does an 8-year-old battery look like? You know, if you've had an electric car for 8 years, which was what I had my Corsa for before, I want to get a nice car and then ride it through as long as I can. So what will that still perform okay? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're pretty consistent. So I did some reading on that, and it's 100,000 miles is what batteries are guaranteed. So every manufacturer will guarantee it. So Kia and Tesla, I think, guarantee their batteries for 100,000 miles.
Okay. What is the cost of replacing them?
I don't know.
I imagine it'll be a hell of a lot more than your standard, but
cost to replace, let's see, Kia electric battery. So this is on the Kia website. Yeah, of course I'm not going to say. Why would I assume the website that's selling the idea of electric cars wouldn't? So that means it's expensive, as far as I'm concerned.
I'd imagine it'd be pretty expensive. But so would an engine. If you had engine failure, it's going to cost you a few quid, isn't it?
Yeah, you didn't see. So what it said was, sorry, I thought I was sharing my screen. It said the price of electric batteries has dropped by 87% over the past decade and will expectedly fall below 100. Okay, below US dollars 100 per kilowatt hour by 2030. So I don't know what that means.
No.
100. So I think, okay. So like the Kia is 100 kilowatt hours. So maybe $1,000. But you make that up. You make that up. I would expect you spend more on fuel than 1,000 pounds. The difference, you'll still save on the battery, over, let's say 4 years, 1,000 pounds. You're going to save more than 1,000 pounds on fuel. 3 pence for every mile, or 5 to 10 pence per every mile, depending on what kind of driving you're doing.
A hell of a lot more than that, mate, I think. And actually, if that is correct, if that £1,000, then I think is that's awesome.
Yeah. The one Kia I was looking at. So the other one is the Kia Soul. I'm curious to see what you think about this car. I'm gonna bring this car up. Because they do an electric that's compatible with the Tesla superchargers. Kia Soul electric images.
Like a sport. Share this.
No, it's different. I'm working on it, man. Come on. All right. There it is. Sharing. So it's one of these jobbers.
I hate that. I think that is horrible. I hate those boxy cars.
It
just makes me sick, the back of them.
I think if you got the right alloys on it, it's passable. Because I'm not as fussed as long as I fit in it. It's a taller car. The only problem is I don't think this is as big as the Nero. Actually, I think it's actually a small car that's made to look big.
Yeah, that's not for me.
I'm not too for me. I'm not too fussed about look. For me, it's function. If it does, because the car I wanted to get before I got my Audi was a Honda Civic, and the new Honda Civics I think look kind of ugly, but it did everything I wanted it to do. It was really comfortable. It drove really well. It had a big boot or trunk, depending on where you're listening from. And I was happy with that car, and I thought it was not. I'll show you the car actually.
Have you seen my car, Sean? I don't think you have seen it.
No, I haven't seen it. What do you have? This is the car this is the car that I was gonna get, but it kind of got screwed up, and that's pretty much the color I was gonna get. I don't think that's a very attractive car.
You don't? Oh, right. I think we just have different tastes in cars.
Yeah, I think it looks kind of it's trying too hard.
Let me show you mine then. So it's a Mercedes C-Class Coupe. Mine's a black one as well.
So what year is it?
2017.
2017. What color is it?
Black.
Let's do the whole thing here.
It's important. The black. I think so. The black.
Oh, that's pretty.
I think it's
the matte looks badass. Yours isn't matte though, is it?
Mine is not matte. No, that's the sports version as well. So mine's not.
So this is probably more accurate to what you have then. How close?
Actually, my rims are pretty similar to that as well. Yeah. So I got this car for property investing purposes because I'm going to be traveling more. I want to be more comfortable in it. And what image do I want to be putting across to potential investors? Because prior to this, it would have been a 2007 Corsa.
That's right.
And, again, I come from the opinion that who cares? I had that for so long. I didn't really need a car. Who cares?
Well, not you that you're trying to impress.
Investors care. Investors care about it. So I want to kind of look like I'm someone that takes myself seriously, that I'm here to do business. And I felt that car looks not. I'm with you. I don't like the too sporty, like the spoilers and.
That looks fine to me. That looks business.
Nice, professional, clean. And I liked it. It kind of ticked my box anyway.
Yeah. So when we look at that BMW i8, that is so not me. That is not my kind of car. I would rather have like the kind of car that would be me. Maybe would be the so for instance, all-wheel drive estate. So like for me, like this is the kind of thing that I would. Maybe something more like a matte gray, something like that. That's very me.
So that's a great car. That's a very utility wise, love it because it'd be a great engine. The A6 as well. You've got the utility of the back space. You aren't going to go far wrong with that, and it's going to do you hundreds of thousands of miles. Now I got to put this to you because I don't know if I've had this conversation with you, and you see these on podcast questions, but money's no object. You're only allowed one car. Like what would be it? Like you haven't got to worry about money. Don't worry about your job or anything. You don't need to work and just kind of put that out of the way. But if you just had the opportunity to go for one car, is there one that would stick out for you?
Yeah, I think I would go with. I'll put it on the screen here. I think it'll be this. I'll even find the color.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I have one. Take everything out of the way because I don't know if I'd ever pay for like a Lamborghini or Ferrari because of this.
This would be my car. This would be if money wasn't an issue.
Object.
I think this would be my car.
So this is a Tesla
Model X matte black. It would be completely automated, all tricked out. That would be probably the car that I would get if I won the lottery tomorrow. That would be the car that I would get.
I think that's a really nice car. Do you know what, mate? Honestly, I think like I heard Dan Bilzerian on some podcast saying that it might be YouTube actually, just saying that he believes it's every man's duty to buy a Ferrari. Like it's a real men drive Ferraris. Like,
of course he would, yeah.
You know what? Like I know where it's that kind of, but he also, if you look at his Instagram, has like 6 like topless babes on his shoulders and like firing guns and everything. So he's that type of guy. But I kind of know what he means. There's something like it. If you get a car, you kind of I'd want to drive a Ferrari or Lamborghini and feel that, see what it's like. But then I can't help but overthink things logically, rationally, that there's a running cost to it. And there's like worrying about people scratching it. And oh, I need to take it in for a service. Oh, it's whatever, £3,000 for a service rather than 200 quid. And that stuff would just grate on me, like insurance, fuel, like miles to gallon. So my answer, I think, like with money no limit, I think it would be an Aston Martin DB9 or DBS. That would be like
a good, yeah.
you know, just it's so beautiful looking. Or even maybe a Jag E-Class, but it would have to be like an updated version where they have all like the new tricked out, but the shape of the E-Class. So something that's really beautiful. Are you putting those in or not? I don't know if you're going to search them.
Oh no, sorry. Which? So tell me what. Give me the make. So you said a few cars there.
Aston Martin DBS.
I found something else I wanted to share on Blazarian actually, just to kind of double back to that because I think it's going to connect to this. But so you want an Aston Martin DB7?
DBS,
Yes.
or DB9, like so that shape is beautiful, and I've heard them before, and I mean, it sound amazing. But again, I don't ever think I'd buy it because of everything I just stated. But just
let me bring that up. So that is a very, I want to say not bog standard, but that is like if you were to tell me to picture an Aston Martin, this is what I would picture.
Yeah, I think the front of it is so sexy.
It looks awesome, and I like it because it's a sports car that's not like with a Ferrari. It looks like you're really trying to be noticed, and I don't want to look like I don't want to look like I'm I want it to look as if I had like let's say a real tricked out BMW, I'd want it to look as bog standard as possible, but on the inside I'd want it to be killer.
Mate, you bring up a really great point there, because look, what's my car right now? It's a Mercedes C-Class coupe. It's not like break any speed records, but it's like it's slick, it's fast enough, it's cool, it's comfortable. So
it looks good. 2017 too. I think it makes you look just that little bit more sensible as well.
Yeah, I wasn't going to buy a brand new car. I wasn't prepared to do that. But you know, I'm still going to lose depreciation on it, and I knew that. But there was method in my madness what I was thinking about for the reasons that you stated. But the DBS is kind of like an extent. It's just like a slicker, slightly much more sportier version of that. Like it's a bit more of an extension. I couldn't do the green Lambo like I just couldn't do that, or the like gold Bugatti. The other one would be oh god, what did I say, mate? I said the DBS. One that I think is a sexy looking car is a Dodge Challenger, like the Challenger. I would never get it.
I drove that actually, the Hemi engine. So that's the car that like yells when you accelerate. I drove it. I paid for the extra for whenever we go to Florida. Sometimes we like to get a decent car, and this car was just like I don't know, it was like 350 horsepower. It was something stupid. It looked awesome. That is a car that, if let's say. Yeah, I would definitely get that, the new one, or I would get like the proper old one as well, like the old, like an old sort of GTO or something like that.
They're so sexy. I think a beautiful.
This is the. So this, I'm not as crazy. Let me find one that doesn't look like it's a pantomime color.
So this is me stepping out of my mold as well, like but I love it.
So here's one in white, and this is what I drove actually, the white one. This is a really fun car to drive. It is awesome to drive. I'll share the screen here. So this car was incredible to drive as far as it was fast, and the sound it made was just it's an emotional sound. Even it was just every time you accelerated, it was just you could feel it. I just for the look, it just looks a bit too showy. I think for me, I would like this car if I know it's part of the whole thing, but I would get rid of the air inlet here.
And that's not
just keep it, boom.
Can you look at the Dodge? Is it the Dodge Challenger?
That's another one I've driven. That's pretty good. Let me find that.
Because that for me, I agree with you, mate. I'd love to drive that car to experience it, but I couldn't own that with the vent and everything. It's just too sporty, too try hardy, like you say. I remember the other car I was thinking of as well, which the Jag type.
The Challenger, to me, this was another one I've driven. This is a much better option for me. I think this looks way better. Way better.
Yeah, there's a gangstery kind of feel to it.
Yeah. The other would be for me, because I love the older cars, would be something like let me just find the year.
Are you talking about old muscle cars now?
Yeah, I would.
America got some beauties.
Yeah, no, it's too soon. What year was it? Yeah, so something like this any sort of GTO here. Let me find it. This for me. This is the only time I would go flashy. Would be for one of these bad boys.
Oh, okay, mate. I see. I'm with you. With you 100%. I think that's beautiful.
But that's, I think an older car is a bit more down and dirty, and I think you can be somebody who appreciates fine art, so to speak, having that car.
Definitely.
Whereas a Ferrari is like you're making a statement about your status, and I don't want to make statements with my car.
I agree with that totally. Can you search for the Jaguar E-Type? That would be in there as well. Again, I mean, ridiculous money. I'd have to have like the newer version of that as well, the new E-Types, because it'd have to be fuel efficient. All that.
Find a good one here.
But
2021 or 2020?
Oh, I don't know, whatever, mate. I don't know that much about them, but I just love the shape of them.
The old one. You're talking about the classic one. Sorry.
You can check both.
I don't know if there's a new one or not. E-Type. So the E-Type is like the old this model here. Sorry, this thing.
I remember on Top Gear they did basically and this was like the old school Top Gear, probably 10 years ago. They did a version where they were updating like all the engine and everything, and I think it's just such a cool car. I would never.
That's a toy, by the way.
Oh, that's a toy. Is it? Oh,
yeah. That is what it is. I mean, that's what they look like.
Yeah, I just really like the shape of those. But I think, mate, if you know, being more rational, I'd go Tesla. I think I would just go with I'd probably go with a Roadster or the Model S, so like a sporty version of what Tesla bring out.
I think the Roadster has like a 700-mile range or something stupid. It's a high power car, and it doesn't have much room for storage. The Tesla Roadster is just stupid good. But it's not, for me, it's not about the Ferrari. But in one of the things, I actually saw a few videos on this. We go back to Dan Bilzerian. And I've heard about Dan Bilzerian's lifestyle, which I didn't realize, because he's very showy on his thing. And I've heard multiple stories. He's being sued. And what's come out in the courts, the money he's had or he's been flaunted hasn't been his money. I've read this from a couple sources. So he gets people to invest in his brand and his company, his brand being, I'm some, dickhead who has 8 women with me in bikinis at all times and flies private jets. And the idea is he runs up these credit cards, rents houses, and then investors pay that off. So I think it's illegal to a degree, or I think it's marginal as far as what he's doing. But Dan Bilzerian, I don't believe, is the person that he claims to be. Which that's a very Dan Bilzerian picture.
Yeah, everything over the top. Look at the money on the side. Jesus.
Yeah, for me. It's what is this advertising? This is not like, if I'm an investor, I'm thinking, yeah, this is the guy I want to give my money to. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to set up a chessboard, and then I'm going to do some shit to make money. This is how I make money.
I can't see someone that chases all that shit is deeply happy. Like, he was coming across on Rogan that. It was quite interesting. I actually had these concepts of him, and then on Rogan, I thought this will be interesting because Rogan doesn't dick around with people. And he actually came across, like, he went through Navy SEALs a number of times, and I think he even passed. So, like, respect. He's not like a mug. He's not just some rich guy. Like, there's no joke to get through that. He's
a smart guy to get the money he's gotten, no matter how he's gotten it. Whether it's an investor, and he's sold the idea that I make money by having this character, this lifestyle. I hire women to walk around with me, and this is the brand.
It's there's an emptiness to it. There can't, I think like any man would be seductive to a lot of his lifestyle, but it's like there's no longevity in it, or no long-term fulfillment in it.
I have no interest in, like, whenever I see the pictures on Instagram, and I think I do follow him on Instagram just because.
It's hilarious. It's funny.
Yeah, it's no different than watching Walker Texas Ranger, my Walker Texas Ranger scale. It's just like cringy, and I do like cringy, and it's no different than when I see what is I guess considered a beautiful woman who looks like, let's say, a modern model in a bikini with lip filler. I find that so unattractive. Whenever I see a woman who's really sort of showing that she feels she's attractive, and she probably is attractive physically, it actually puts me off. I actually want to make it a point to let her know that I'm not looking at her. And it's the same sort of thing with guys in Ferraris or people with their money. I don't give a shit. Even if I had money, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I love that. I love that approach. With you 100%.
But it's down to, you get guys like Rogan who I think who aren't very showy in what they do. They're doesn't go out of his way to show off his lifestyle. He has a golden retriever, right? Not really showing it off, a big dopey golden retriever, and just enjoying his life. And people like that I don't mind, because they're not overly braggadocious about anything whatsoever. You wouldn't know Joe Rogan's a rich man. He's loaded, but you wouldn't necessarily know about it. He doesn't talk about it.
That's what's so appealing about him.
Anyway, mate. Well, that was a fun show this week. I think I do need to start wrapping up here.
Yeah, mate, I loved it. We went on a few little spirals there, didn't we? But that was fun.
Yeah, well, I think we'll figure out where we're going with it next week. I think we are going to be, and Veg, if you do watch this, sorry, I think we're going to be more towards the world of sport, as I really enjoyed that conversation today, and I'd like to keep going with that.
Oh, good, mate. Me too.
So we'll decide where we're going with it next week. So stay tuned. If you have stuck around with us this long, thank you. Please do. And I haven't pulled out yet, which I've really let the side down. Like and subscribe. Please join us every week. Join the conversation. We haven't had many commenters. This is the first time we've gone down the route of really talking about sport and other stupid shit as well. So please do like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And we got a comment. It's Veg. What? We may be doing more sport, Veg, but we're going to be finishing with, I'll make sure that we're publishing, because we're not just going to be talking sport all the time, but I think there's going to be more sports being talked about, and then more stupid shit. So I'll make sure I publish those videos separately so you can bypass all the sport and watch the stupid shit. But thanks for sticking around through all of our stupid shit. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch up with you next week.